Chapter 129. Shi and Lin Ke looked at each other for a few seconds and suddenly laughed. Good. It's good that you're not afraid. A newborn calf shouldn't be afraid of a tiger. Then he looked at Lu Cheng and clenched his fist, which was rare for him. You're the second one. Lin Ke is the hammer to open up the situation. You're the chisel to follow closely behind. Even if it's an iron wall, you have to make a hole for me. Lu Cheng was young and vigorous. His blood boiled and he said without hesitation, Good. Shi nodded with satisfaction and clapped his hands. As long as you can make a hole, dampen their spirit and suppress their shouts, I'll take it as our victory today. Next time we'll come back and break through this place fair and square. Sun Jian, you have to prepare carefully. You'll definitely have a chance to fight today. Do your best. Yes, coach. Sun Jian was a little nervous and excited. It was both scary and exciting to fight in such an atmosphere. After encouraging the morale and arranging the order, Shi glanced at his watch and said, There are still 10 minutes left. Don't rush out. Do a warm-up in the locker room. Stretch your muscles and get familiar with the feeling. As for the fighting style, I've already explained it in the morning training, so I won't repeat it. After practicing Thunder Roar Zen for more than a week, he gradually grasped the threshold of the skill. If he wanted to use the vibration force, he had to have an explosion process when he hit his opponent. It was just like the explosion of a bomb after it hit the enemy. Thus, it would create a shock wave that would spread from one point to the other and create a vibration. In order to achieve this, the force had to be withdrawn and compressed in advance, and it had to be maintained until hitting the enemy. It couldn't be used as an explosive force or a driving force for punches. This was a big test for the control of the body, the control of the muscles and the skin. And the training with Jianghu gave him some insight on how to withdraw and control. He was eager to master the two. Time passed. Lu Cheng pulled his sleeves, the airflow was slow and his mind was clear. He withdrew his arms and stood straight again, exhaling a mouthful of turbid air. As soon as he finished withdrawing, Shi coughed and said, Okay, get ready to go out. The others quickly finished and followed Shi out of the locker room, stepping into the tiger's den. As soon as they saw them, the tens of thousands of spectators outside cheered in unison. The sound was deafening, making people feel short of breath. Get lost. Crawl back. Shi walked forward leisurely in the face of the shouting, which was mixed with all kinds of profanities. He clicked his tongue and said to Lu Cheng and the others, Did you hear that? If you can beat them into silence for a while, then you won't have come here in vain. Strangely enough, despite the loud noise, his low chuckle still clearly entered the ears of every participant. Infected by his carefree attitude, Lu Cheng secretly clenched his fists. His anticipation for the next match overcame his fear. He reached out his left hand and held Jianghu's right palm, comforting her unconsciously accelerating heartbeat with his own calmness. Jianghu was stunned at first, then turned to look at him. Her eyes were smiling, and her dimples were faintly visible. Then she raised her head like a proud princess, and walked forward hand in hand with him. When they arrived at the guest team seats, Li Xiaowen, who was in charge of handing the name list to the competition supervisor, had been waiting for them. She said quickly, Xiao Yang didn't go. Tan Ming of amateur first pin replaced him. Wei Xingtian is the vanguard and Dong Yi is the second. The slightly messy words made Lu Cheng and the others stunned. They all looked at Lin Quebec. It was really a narrow road. Lin Ke looked sideways at the ring and slowly pulled off the clothes draped over his martial arts suit. The referee glanced at the electronic clock, gathered the strength in his dantian, and said in a voice that suppressed the shouts of the audience, The second round of the preliminaries of Songqing Division, Fearless Squad vs Songqing University Martial Arts Club. The first round, Wei Xingtian vs Lin Ke. As soon as his voice fell, the audience burst into shouts several times louder than before, Yimo. After a short pause they roared again, Invincible Wei. Invincible Wei of Yimo. Lin Ke was still expressionless. He took off his coat and put it on the seat. Facing the shouts that filled the martial arts arena, he walked step by step to the side of the ring. He walked along the stone steps and stepped onto the ring. Under the cheers of the audience, Wei Xingtian also stood up from his seat. He was like a half-iron tower and arrived at the ring in a few strides. When the two sides stood, the referee counted the time silently and said, The 3-minute dialogue starts. The audience burst into curses, cursing Lin Ke's 18 generations of ancestors and female relatives. Jianghu's face turned red, and she was so angry that her breathing was uneven. Lu Cheng held her soft hand and felt the physical changes caused by her intense emotions. He gently shook her hand and said, "Don't be angry. Just take it as a group of mad dogs barking." How could he not hate them? He secretly made up his mind to silence the audience, even if it was only for a few seconds. Yenjika pursed her lips and nodded. "I know they want to disturb my cousin's state of mind. It's an arena competition and they will do anything. But I'm still angry. I've never been scolded like this in my life." As she spoke, she pouted her mouth. "I'll try to complete the small goal," Lu Qing said seriously. Yenjika immediately shook her head like a rattle drum. "I'm not angry anymore. You have to maintain your state of mind. You can't be affected, understand?" "Got it, Coach Yen." Lu Qing chuckled. Yenjika snorted and looked at him with a smile, forgetting about the background noise. After this incident, she also forgot the nervousness and fear at the beginning. On the ring, Wei Xingtian looked at Lin Ke, who was adjusting his body state, and smiled slightly. "Your qi and blood are vigorous to the extreme. You're only one step away from Dan's stage. Unfortunately, there's still one step. I know your idea is to win 1 or 2 rounds and leave Yimo with dignity. But I won't let you do as you wish. I'll personally dispel your delusions." As he spoke, he shook his head as if he was stretching his muscles and bones, but also as if he was showing contempt. Lin Ke listened quietly and suddenly opened his mouth. "The more you talk, the more you show the fear in your heart." "I'm afraid? Why would I be afraid of you, a professional ninth pin guy? Tell me why." "What?" Wei Xingtian felt funny and angry at the same time and snorted disdainfully. However, Lin Ke didn't respond anymore. He was like a Buddha carved out of stone. No matter how he was provoked, he didn't have any emotional fluctuations. After 2 minutes of ridicule, Wei Xingtian suddenly stopped because he found himself a little impatient. The other party had clearly only said one sentence, and it had actually caused him to become impatient. He had a good grasp of people's hearts. Retracting his state of mind and adjusting his breathing, Wei Xingtian regained his state of mind. At this moment, the referee raised his right hand and shouted, "Begin!" Wei Xingtian's eyes flashed. His back arched like a bow and suddenly bounced. His whole body's muscles expanded as if he was taller. He shot towards Lin Ke with his right hand raised and clenched into a fist. It was as if he was holding a giant hammer and was about to swing it down fiercely. In the face of Wei Xingtian, who was rushing towards him like a giant spirit statue, Lin Ke didn't block and suddenly retreated. Normally, a normal martial artist wouldn't dodge like this because they couldn't see the road behind them and couldn't maintain their center of gravity. It was equivalent to putting themselves in a very disadvantageous position. But Lin Ke was like a dexterous mountain goat. His footwork was light, his rhythm was orderly, and his body was stable. More importantly, his retreat was to advance. Taking 3 steps back, Lin Ke forced Wei Xingtian to take 3 steps back. When his momentum started to decline, Lin Ke suddenly stopped as if he was nailed to the ground. He exerted force on his feet, twisted his waist, and punched out a mountain blast punch with his right hand. Wei Xingtian estimated his strength. His right fist that was in the shape of a giant hammer still smashed down fiercely. Mountain blast punch. Bang. When the two collided, Lin Ke's spine suddenly squirmed like a dragon turning over. His right arm was like a spring, taking advantage of the momentum to pull back. When one side of the lever was pressed, the other side would be raised. His temples swelled, his back twisted. His left hand formed a fist and hit out as fast as a meteor. It was too late to dodge. Wei Xingtian lowered his shoulders and crossed his left arm to block the punch. Bang. Wei Xingtian felt like he was hit by a bomb. He felt that every joint, every inch of skin, and every muscle in his body was in shock. He couldn't exert strength for a short time. Yin-yang twist, meteor force. Lin Ke was afraid that he couldn't shake Wei Xingtian with his own strength, so he deliberately took the risk of using yin-yang twist to borrow part of his opponent's strength. Wei Xingtian had seen Lin Ke's previous competition video. But because he killed an amateur first pin in seconds last time, he couldn't see anything and fell for it. Seeing that he was stiff, Lin Ke took advantage of the situation. His thighs tightened and with a snap, he pulled out his right leg and hit between Wei Xingtian's legs. Seeing this, the cursing in the arena became more intense. At the critical moment, Wei Xingtian's body suddenly shrank. His spirit, qi, blood, momentum, and strength seemed to condense into a big Dan, round and flawless, and stopped the shock. After a moment, his strength broke out, gushing from a point in his body. Driving his right leg, he kicked out and blocked Lin Ke's whip kick. Bang. When the two legs collided, Lin Ke immediately felt a majestic force. He could no longer maintain his center of gravity, and following the force he stumbled to the side and back. Under such an explosion, Wei Xingtian didn't break the ground and burst open his martial arts shoes. It was enough to show that his control of his body had reached a terrifying level. After a successful move, he showed no mercy. He stepped on the ground and jumped out. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Lin Quebec. His muscles bulged and his whole body was like a giant hammer, to give his opponent a fierce crash. Close punch. Lin Ke had just stabilized his center of gravity when he was faced with such a blow. He was really in danger and it seemed that he couldn't avoid it. Yanjika couldn't help but hold her breath. At this moment in Lin Ke's mind, he visualized a meteor cutting through the sky and hitting the ground. His body muscles tightened, and the force exploded in his body, pushing him 2 steps sideways. Wei Xingtian hit nothing and could only explode the airflow. Meteor force can be used not only in attack. After narrowly avoiding Wei Xingtian's close punch, Lin Ke didn't turn around. He put his feet together, straightened his right arm and whipped to the side, hitting the back of Wei Xingtian's head. Snap. Under such a strong whip, not to mention stone force, even real stones would be smashed. The audience unconsciously clenched their fists. Chapter 130. Lin Ke moved sideways and Wei Xingtian missed. Both of them were on the same horizontal line, but one was facing south while the other was facing north. They could only see each other from the corner of their eyes. Lin Ke's right arm single whip was natural and casual, as if it was at his fingertips. It had the charm of softness and toughness. It hit the back of Wei Xingtian's head without any mistake. The audience watching Yimo subconsciously clenched their fists and showed concern. Although they were full of confidence in Wei Wuди and continued to shout, in the face of such an attack, the human body instinctively had the corresponding feeling. Although they didn't say it, their hearts were very honest. Wei Xingtian, who was stuck in the air, seemed to have eyes at the back of his head. He had an absolute reaction and took a deep breath. His skin that was a little dark blue suddenly swelled and then contracted. Then he wriggled his spine and instantly overcame the inertia. He strode forward and flashed out of the attack range. Dong. He had just avoided the whip and immediately stepped with his right foot, which seemed to shake the ring. He turned around, twisted his waist and kicked out. Unlike the normal whip kick, Wei Xingtian used his left leg as a giant hammer. He was holding it, swinging his arm and sweeping away thousands of troops. It was fierce and overbearing, almost like a knife on horseback. The air burst with a series of explosions which made Lin Ke's hair stand on end. However, he didn't choose to dodge. Instead, he lowered his waist and put on a posture. His left hand clenched into a fist and blocked the sweeping hammer. Bang! His leg hit the left arm. Lin Ke's body bounced and shook. He was about to be hit, but his left hand that was clenched into a fist suddenly loosened. His whole arm became soft and he swung it back to dissolve part of the force. He pushed his body sideways and his right hand grabbed from the bottom to the top. He wanted to break the tendons and bones of Wei Xingtian's left leg. Seeing this situation, Wei Xingtian didn't retract his left leg but met Lin Ke's right palm head-on. At the same time, his waist and back suddenly tightened, and his body leaped up like a wild horse in the air. His right foot kicked forward with explosive power. Rabbit steps on eagle. Lin Ke didn't dare to grab Wei Xingtian's left leg again. He pulled back his right arm to block the kick. As soon as the two came into contact, his arm retracted to neutralize the force. However, his retraction was not straight back as that would hit his own chest, which was equivalent to giving up resistance. Instead, he drew a small arc, flipped up and shook, throwing Wei Xingtian out. Good. Wei Xingtian shouted as soon as his feet touched the ground. His kick just now seemed ordinary, but it was actually a killer move. If Lin Ke had directly blocked it, he would have immediately borrowed the force and followed up with another kick with his left foot. It was fast and ruthless and he did it 7 times in a row. Lin Ke was unable to block it. Before he entered the Danchi state, he once challenged a martial arts club. Due to the poor standard of the referee, a professional 9th pin fighter's sternum was all broken by this move. Although he was saved in time, he was still bedridden for a long time, and only 40 to 50% of his kung fu remained. Lin Ke, on the other hand, countered the attack. His ingenious use of energy made his follow-up attack disappear without a trace. As proud as Wei Xingtian was, he couldn't help but praise him. Seeing this scene, Geezer Sure nodded gently and smiled to Lu Cheng beside him. In terms of borrowing force, you have achieved great success in meditation and good control of your body muscles. You are only inferior to him in the uniqueness of yin-yang twist. But in terms of neutralizing force, you are still too rough. You have been practicing martial arts for too short a time. You don't know much and you don't know many little tricks. It's hard for you to be like him. This is also the reason why I let him take the lead. If you meet Wei Xingtian in his best condition, you don't know how to neutralize but only how to borrow. It'll be good if you can block 3 moves. It'll be a waste of your abnormal physical strength. Lu Qing nodded slightly as if he was thinking. He looked at the ring more and more attentively. On the other side, Yanjika heard her cousin being praised by Coach Shi. She was overjoyed and proud. Taking advantage of the good shout, Wei Xingtian took a step forward. His right hand turned into a battering awl, and suddenly hit out. Lin Kei's 2 legs were pressed inward. His hands were like a door, pushing and pushing, squeezing and lifting. He forcibly blocked the hammer. Wei Xingtian didn't give him any chance to adjust and recover. His left arm shook like a spear and went straight for Lin Kei's throat. Lin Kei tilted his head. His hands that blocked Wei Xingtian's right fist suddenly pushed forward. Taking advantage of the rebound force, he jumped back. Like a mountain goat, he took a few steps back and rearranged his stance. Wei Xingtian exerted strength in his waist and abdomen and took a big step forward to catch up again. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The two kept fighting and separating. Every time Lin Kei couldn't hold on after blocking 1 or 2 hammers, he used the force to dodge. Within 2 or 3 minutes, he took Wei Xingtian to almost every corner of the ring. Geezer Shi looked and laughed. You have some ideas. What ideas? Not only Lu Qing and Yanjika looked at him curiously, but Sun Jian and Li Mao also looked at him in confusion. Geezer Shi chuckled and said, Lin Kei is at a disadvantage but he doesn't panic. Instead, he is taking this opportunity to temper himself. If you want to advance to the Dan stage from the peak of the body refining stage, first, you have to train your own cultivation to the bone, to the inside of the body, and to the smallest detail. This is something that others can't help you with. Second, you have to master the charm of withdraw, and integrate the strength of your whole body into one. Lin Kei knows how to withdraw, but there is still some distance to truly withdraw. He is using Wei Xingtian's hammers to condense the pure strength of his own body. Under the pressure of external forces, he is forced to withdraw. This is like forging iron. Keep hammering to force out the impurities and refine it into steel. Lu Qing was surprised and happy. So, big, Lin Kei may have a breakthrough and become a big Dan. Impossible. Geezer Shi bluntly denied his guess. Even if he has mastered withdraw, without a certain time of polishing and understanding, without repeated attempts, there is no way to integrate the strength of his whole body into one and step into the Dan stage. Breaking through is a process, not a node. It can't be done just on the spot. Speaking of this, he snorted, and Wei Xingtian is not blind. After repeated collisions, how can he not hear the change in the opponent's strength? Can't see what Lin Kei really wants to do? If I were him, I would immediately break out and try to interrupt Lin Kei to try to end the battle. Master, which side are you on? Lu Qing silently complained. Just as he finished complaining, the situation on the arena developed in the direction Geezer Shi said. When Wei Xingtian approached Lin Kei again, his essence, qi, spirit, will and the strength of his whole body suddenly contracted, as if condensed to a point, making his body look empty and lose the feeling of a living person. Immediately after, the point suddenly burst out and the strength gushed out, making Wei Xingtian's spine like a bow, instantly recovered from the pull to the limit. Together with the hammer Jin in his mind, it drove the strength of his feet downward. Suddenly Wei Xingtian seemed to be shorter by 1 or 2 centimeters. His muscles swelled, his dark blue skin bulged, and his right hand turned into a giant hammer. With the mighty strength of that point and almost all the strength of his body, he hit Lin Kei at a very fast speed, blocking most of the angles, making it difficult for him to activate the compressed meteor force in time to dodge. Giant spirit hammer. Lin Kei's eyes narrowed dangerously. The avalanche in his mind rolled and poured into his feet, crashing to the ground. The violent force rebounded, passing through his feet, legs and waist, bouncing through his spine and pouring into his left arm. With a bang he met the hammer with a soaring cannon punch. Bang! When the two collided, Lin Kei's body trembled as if he had turned into a wooden man. He mechanically retracted his left fist, both transforming and borrowing, guiding the terrifying strength into his own body, mixing it with the essence, qi, spirit and will that had been constantly refined and compressed, condensing into a ball. With a pull of the wooden man, the right half of Lin Kei's body was pushed forward. All the strength suddenly burst out, driving his right fist to burst out. Yin-yang twist, meteor burst. Wei Xingtian was not surprised or afraid, as if he had expected it. The strength of his right hand strangely retracted, as if his whole body was one. His left arm was already swinging and hitting hard. Mad Demon Hammer. Bang. A dull and violent sound broke out. Lin Ke and Wei Xingtian maintained the posture of crossing their fists, temporarily pausing. With two cracking sounds, Lin Ke's martial arts shoes were torn apart, leaving only the soles of his feet. Wei Xingtian gasped for breath and laughed. If you can make one more hit, I will most likely lose. Lin Ke lowered his head, sweat constantly dripping from his black hair. His eyes looked straight at his feet, neither replying nor moving his body. After Wei Xingtian took the punch head-on, it was as if he had suffered a terrifying explosion. His qi and blood were tumbling, his internal organs were shaking, and his bones and joints were trembling. He was so uncomfortable that he felt dizzy. Not to mention fighting again, he even had the impulse to spit out blood. But he knew that Lin Ke's state was worse. How could his full-strength giant spirit hammer be so easy to transform and borrow strength? And in the final collision, the outbreak of Mad Demon Hammer was equally terrifying. The fact that Lin Ke could still stand straight and not fall surprised him. The referee observed for more than 10 seconds and raised his right hand. The first round, Wei Xingtian wins. As soon as the result was announced, the surrounding stands suddenly boiled up, shouting crazily, "Fearless!" The other side responded enthusiastically, "We will win. Fearless Squad will win." The referee waved to the competition supervisor, pointed at Lin Ke and said, "He is a little injured, help him down." Immediately after, he looked at Songqing University Martial Arts Club and shouted, "The second contestant, Lu Cheng." In the TV broadcast room, guest commentator He Xiaowei slapped the table and laughed. "Like I said, how can a Danchi State fighter lose against a professional ninth pin? You tell me how to lose?" A few gamblers were watching the live TV broadcast and were considering whether to bet on the final result. "Big brother, this commentator is a famous poison healer with a crow's mouth. Should we bet on him instead?" A young man was worried. His big brother patted his head and said, "Are you stupid? We have to analyze the strength of both sides and the odds when we bet. How can we rely on luck to make a living? Even if he has a crow's mouth, he can't do everything in reverse, right? We have to believe in our own eyes." Yes, big brother is right. The other gamblers were convinced. In Lu Cheng's private forum, there was a post called Qualifier Second Round Live Broadcast. At this time there were a few new replies. Eternal Nightfall Yan Xiaoling said, "Lu Cheng is going to fight. He is going to fight. But I am so worried that Danchi State fighter is so fierce." Brahman also said pitifully, "Lu Cheng, please don't get hurt. Losing to a Dan State fighter is not shameful." Unparalleled Dragon King also replied, "Reality is reality, you won't always meet a stronger opponent or a weaker one." Seeing Lin Ke being helped down, Lu Cheng held Yanzhika's hand, took off his coat and stood up. Yanzhika wanted to tell him to be careful, but she was afraid that her nervousness and worry would affect his performance. In the end, she turned all her words into a gesture of encouragement and a joking sentence. "Cheng, I have faith in you." The familiar tone made Lu Cheng smile. Courage poured out bit by bit, slowly flowing, urging him to step forward and walk along the road to the arena. On the ring, Wei Xingtian took 2 steps forward, but the tattered martial arts shoes on his feet were left in place. Because they were embedded in the bluestone ground, the surroundings were full of spiderweb-like cracks. This was the reason why he suddenly became 1 or 2 centimeters shorter just now. Wei Xingtian's body was still shaking and his face was ugly. He raised his chin and looked down at Lu Cheng, who was walking to the arena. Lu Cheng was not afraid and calmly looked back at him. For eyes met as if there were sparks in the air. At this time, Wei Xingtian smiled at Lu Cheng and raised his right arm. In the stands, the audience immediately responded with a tsunami of cheers, and the enthusiasm was so surging that the roof was almost lifted off. Yimo. Invincible Wei. Invincible Wei. Chapter 131. Yimo. Invincible Wei. The duet shouts rose and fell one after another, setting off a terrifying storm in the enclosed stadium. They overlapped with the echoes, vibrating Lu Cheng's eardrums and turning into substance, becoming a part of Wei Xingtian's momentum, making him look invincible. In the face of such a deliberate demonstration and provocation, it would be a lie to say that Lu Cheng's state of mind did not change. He was not yet 20 years old and full of vigor. He had not experienced many big scenes and had only experienced a life-and-death battle once. He could not be compared to Shi, who was used to seeing all kinds of things. He could not be as calm as still water and not be surprised. He was a little trembling, a little nervous, and some inexplicable anger. All kinds of emotions mixed together with the abuse that affected Yenjika just now, fermenting into a strong fighting spirit. Taking a breath, he concealed his spirit in qi and visualized the scene of condensing water into ice. With a calm and composed mind, he commanded the others, pushing his momentum up step by step. When he stepped on the ring, he had automatically filtered out the echoes in the stadium, showing no signs of weakness under Wei Xingtian's pressure. Songqing University, Building 7, Unit 2, Dormitory 302. Kai Zoming put his laptop on the coffee table, gathered Zhao Chong, Qin Mo, and the others and sat around the living room, watching the live broadcast of Yimo TV station through the internet. After seeing Lu Cheng's straight figure, neither servile nor overbearing, he couldn't help but sigh. Why do I feel that Cheng is more charming than me? Zhao Chong and the others did not answer his slightly narcissistic sigh and stared nervously at the screen. Even though they were hundreds of kilometers away, separated by network signals and radio waves, they could still feel the crazy atmosphere and the horror of the professional 8th pin dance stage. Subconsciously they were worried for Lu Cheng. Don't get hurt. Don't lose too badly. In the live broadcast room as a professional commentator, He Xiaowei seized the short gap and quickly made the final introduction. As we have said before the competition, Lu Cheng from Songqing University Martial Arts Club has not been practicing martial arts for a long time, so his physical fitness is still lacking. Relying on his strength exertion techniques, mercurial balance and silent listening skills, he has improved his overall strength to the level of a real professional 9th pin fighter. In short, he is invincible in one move. Now, in the face of a real dance stage expert, his strength exerting skills and his mercurial balance are not as good as his opponents. All his advantages will be offset and all his weaknesses will be exposed. Therefore, even if Wei Xingtian consumed a lot of energy in the previous battle, even if he still has the effect of the last fierce collision, isn't it a sure thing to beat Lu Cheng? I don't believe that he can fail at such a simple task. Tell me how to do it. Alright, let's cut the crap. The second round is about to begin. Let's wait and see. In order to not give Wei Xingtian enough time to recover and to not waste the opportunity created by Lin Ke at the risk of injury, Lu Cheng's speed towards the arena was not slow. After a few strides, he was already facing his opponent across the referee. Without wasting time, without waiting, without stopping, the referee raised his right hand and swung it down. Begin. Of course, Wei Xingtian would not fight a protracted battle with Lu Cheng. While waiting for his opponent to enter the arena, he was adjusting. Enduring the discomfort of his internal organs, bones and muscles, he turned his spine into a bowstring, pulled and then bounced. Following that, he exerted strength under his feet and crushed 2 black bricks. Using himself as a sharp arrow, he shot out. His speed was beyond Lu Cheng's expectation. He only felt that his opponent was in front of him in the blink of an eye. There was no time to adjust his center of gravity to dodge. Only by experiencing it in person could one truly understand the horror of the dance stage. This was not something that could be accurately grasped just by watching the battle videos and other people's matches. Lu Cheng now suffered a severe loss. As soon as he approached, Wei Xingtian clenched his hands into fists, half retracted his right shoulder and elbow, and hammered down at a short distance. This was completely different from the hammering technique he just displayed. If he was fighting with a long-handled giant hammer before, now he was holding 2 hammers in his hands. Learning from Li Yuanba, he hammered one after another, not caring about the distance, not caring about the moves, only fierceness and speed. As the saying goes, random fists can kill a master. Gigantic spirit hammering technique, double random hammering. Lu Cheng kept calm and took a short breath. In his mind, lightning struck down and hit the dead wood, bringing a prairie fire. The heat flowed down from his tailbone and poured into his legs. He pushed his left foot inward, twisted his waist and put up a fist. Pa! A mountain blast was launched. Bang! The hammer and cannon collided. A majestic force hit, making it difficult for Lu Cheng to stabilize his body. There was a clear gap between the strength of the 2 sides. Wei Xingtian had indeed experienced a fierce battle and was still affected. But Lu Cheng was also in a hurry to respond and only had time to use the lightning and fire stance. Fortunately, Lu Cheng was prepared. As soon as they came into contact, his right foot took a step back and removed part of the force. He guided the remaining force into the soles of his feet. He stepped on a black brick and let his center of gravity stabilize behind. This was a move of Tai Chi which was widely used. Lu Cheng first imitated it from Yi Yaoting, and just now he learned it from watching Lin Ke's elimination and attack. At this time he used it and finally blocked this hammer. But how could Wei Xingtian's double hammer be so simple? As soon as the right hammer stopped, the left hammer rose up. It looked like he was going to beat his opponent with a series of random hammers. Facing this, Lu Qing seemed to only have two choices. One was to use the rebound force of his right foot to jump back just like Lin Ke just now. He retreated nimbly with his back and resumed his stance. But this battle was different from the previous one. The situation was different. The distance between the two sides was very close. It was enough for Wei Xingtian to use the short hammer to attack fiercely. If Lu Qing jumped back, his speed might not be able to catch up with the momentum of Wei Xingtian's left hammer. There was a certain possibility that he would be hit, which was quite risky. And the second choice was to parry again and then retreat again. Maintain the current situation and wait for Wei Xingtian to finish his momentum. But Lu Qing knew that there was a gap in strength between him and his opponent. He wasn't as delicate as Lin Quebec. If he just defended, he might not be able to hold on until his opponent took a breath. This was really dangerous on both sides. When fighting with a master, once you fall into a disadvantageous position, it would be extremely difficult to get rid of it again. Lu Qing's heart was as calm as water, as if he was facing a life-and-death battle. When Wei Xingtian's left hammer was about to hit, he suddenly moved. He used the rebound force of his right foot to straighten his back and lean to the left. He didn't jump back but instead moved forward. He lowered his shoulder and slammed into Wei Xingtian's chest. No dodging, no parrying, just once. In his mind, the snow mountain collapsed. His body merged with the white stream and rolled toward Wei Xingtian. And because of the forward movement of his body and the left side of his body, which was also the right side of his opponent, he narrowly avoided the left hammer that was smashing down. Only the strong wind hit his face and made him feel pain. And the distance between the two sides was close enough. Lu Qing just got up and was about to hit Wei Xingtian's chest. In a situation full of danger and disadvantage, he actually relied on his fearless courage, the tragedy of a life-and-death battle, and his calm and accurate judgment to face the difficulties and seize the only opportunity to turn defeat into victory. Because of the strength of Wei Xingtian's hammer, his collision was powerful and violent, as if it could even smash a real stone. The sudden reversal of victory and defeat made the entire audience unable to react in time. They were still cheering loudly as usual, shouting and cursing. At this critical moment, Wei Xingtian didn't panic. He suddenly sat down and the violent momentum and power of the two hammers suddenly retracted to a certain point in his body. The momentum was so fast that it seemed to pull his spirit, willpower, and blood flow to that point. His whole body suddenly lost the feeling of a living person. Lu Qing felt like he had bumped into a phantom the moment he collided with it. He felt a sense of emptiness and softness. After a moment, that point in Wei Xingtian's body exploded. His strength, momentum, and spirit gushed out in an instant, bulging his muscles, propping up his fascia, and turning his blackish skin into a hard stone. Bang! Lu Qing, who had a part of his strength reduced by the initial emptiness, didn't break the blue stone. He only made Wei Xingtian's upper body shake a little. His torso quickly swung back. His arms wrapped around Lu Qing, trying to hold him in his arms. The embrace of the giant bear. Such a hug and squeeze would definitely break the bones of ordinary people and strangle them to death. Even if it was a martial artist, it would be difficult to bear. But at this moment, Lu Qing seemed to have anticipated it. Taking advantage of the rebound from the collision, he shot backward like a bolt of lightning. This was unexpectedly not slower than the forward pounce. Not only did he narrowly avoid the hug, but he also pulled apart the distance between him and Wei Xingtian. After a few nimble steps, he rearranged his stance. He just took the risk to move forward and slam sideways, all for the sake of retreating now. It was the opposite of Lin Ke's retreating in order to advance. Lu Qing clearly knew that a dance stage master couldn't be defeated in a few moves. He must restrain his restlessness and not blindly seek to finish the battle in one fell swoop. Wei Xingtian took a breath, strode forward and attacked again. In his heart, his evaluation of Lu Qing was raised a little. An opponent who only knew how to be ruthless wasn't scary. What was scary was not only ruthless but also not reckless at all. In the seats of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Yan Zhika had long pursed her lips. She was nervous and worried about the changes just now. She didn't expect Lu Qing to fall into such a passive situation at the beginning. She also didn't expect him to attack instead of retreating. Her palms were sweating because of this. When Lu Qing jumped back with the help of the collision, pulled away and recovered the balance, she heaved a long sigh of relief. Her eyes were shining for her boyfriend's judgment, courage, determination and clear-headedness in such a short time. Geezer sure watched quietly. Suddenly he clicked his tongue and said, "Not bad. After a short treatment, Lin K had recovered his ability to move. But his face was as white as paper and his left arm was hanging weakly. His eyes were fixed on the field and didn't move for a moment. His right fist unconsciously clenched. In the live broadcast room, Xiaowei finished this part with some lingering fear. He breathed a sigh of relief and laughed. Contestant Lu Cheng from Songqing University is very reckless. If it wasn't for his good luck, Wei Xingtian would have finished the battle by now. Hey, at that distance, even if the referee is powerful, he may not be able to save him. He's bound to break a few bones. But his luck is really good. His reckless attack actually exchanged for an opportunity. Unfortunately, strength is the final deciding factor. He didn't win even like this. It's conceivable that he can't win at all. You guys tell me how to win. When all the audience just recovered from the shock, Wei Xingtian once again closed the distance between him and Lu Cheng. He opened his right arm like a sledgehammer and smashed hard on the opponent's posture. Chapter 132. Lu Cheng knew that he was completely restrained by Wei Xingtian in terms of speed, agility, and mercurial balance. Naturally, he wouldn't drag the battle into his opponent's field of expertise. He planned to learn from Lin K just now to set up a stance, counterattack, and respond flexibly, to take advantage of his perfect condition and abnormal physical strength, and wait for the opportunity to change the balance of victory. Wei Xingtian had just experienced a fierce battle, and was hit hard by him. He had already used his full strength 3 or 4 times. How long could he maintain his current level of strength? Bam! The air exploded. Wei Xingtian's right fist fell and hit Lu Cheng's stance. Lu Cheng's arms trembled and his body swayed. At this moment, Lu Cheng turned his waist and back quickly, borrowing the strength of the punch. His body's joints and bones all exerted strength, opening and flinging. This was the swing force he learned after the battle with Jianghu. After his own exploration, Geezer Shi's guidance and a few days of trial, he finally mastered it successfully. Today he wanted to give Wei Xingtian a surprise. Wei Xingtian suddenly felt as if he was hit hard on the side and was about to lose his center of gravity and stumble away. He lowered his center of gravity, his spine squirmed like a dragon, and his feet were like nails firmly rooted in the ground. His upper body swayed to the side and swung back like a spring. He twisted his waist and threw a punch quickly and fiercely towards Lu Cheng's lower abdomen. In a flash, he broke the swing force and showed the power of the Dan stage. Of course, this was also because Lu Cheng had just learned it and his body was at a disadvantage. He was already mentally prepared. He visualized the momentum of the brutal blizzard in his mind and borrowed the strength of the rebound. He lowered his center of gravity, pressed his feet, clenched his right hand and hammered down, accurately hitting Wei Xingtian's crushing punch. Bam! In the dull sound, Lu Cheng's body swayed. He nimbly took a few steps back, imitating Lin K, and tried to open up the distance again. He was worried that Wei Xingtian would rush and disrupt his rhythm, but he found that his opponent's body seemed to be stagnant and was temporarily frozen in place. The residual effect of the meteor force? The performance of the decline of the body's condition? Many thoughts flashed through his mind. Lu Cheng's foot suddenly exerted force, bringing the inertia of his body to change, and fiercely pounced forward. Kill him while he's down. Lightning flashed in Lu Cheng's mind. The silver snake struck down, shaking the snowy peaks that had accumulated for thousands of years, creating a white torrent that could devour everything. They flowed into his left arm through the rotation of his waist and the innermost part of his feet. Like a jet of air, he threw a violent punch. Lu Cheng saw a faint smile on Wei Xingtian's face. His spirit, qi spirit, and strength were all gathered into a human body Big Dan, condensing everything together. Wei Xingtian's muscles swelled, turning his martial arts suit into a tight suit. His dark skin tightened like the surface of a stone. His whole person seemed to have turned into a tall and mighty giant statue. Visible cracks appeared on the bricks under his feet. He clenched his right fist and punched out fiercely. The condensed power and momentum found the only way to vent, pushing it forward crazily and exploding the air along the way. Lu Cheng narrowed his eyes and realized that he had been deceived by Wei Xingtian. As a master of the Dan stage, he had to play tricks to deal with him. He deliberately pretended that he had consumed a certain amount of energy and his body was in a condition. Although it was despicable, he had to admit that he had a good grasp of his own mentality and knew that he was waiting for this opportunity. In a martial arts fight, there was no despicable, only victory and defeat. The winner was righteous. Since he had already launched his attack, it was impossible for him to stop it at the last minute. That would be even more terrifying. For example, in a situation where leg was leg to leg, if they were to clash head-on, they would at most suffer some bruises and swelling. However, if one of them was not determined enough and decided to withdraw, they would often end up with broken bones. Bang! The two didn't change their moves and collided together. Lu Qing only felt the pain in his fist and the sound of his bones. He didn't dare to resist for fear of breaking his arm. He could only choose to be swept away by the majestic force and thrown to a place not far away. Dong! Just as he fell to the ground, Wei Xingtian had already rushed over, not giving him any chance to adjust and recover. Seeing this, Yanzhika's clenched fists loosened. Everyone in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club sighed together. The result was about to be revealed. Lu Qing failed and Wei Xingtian won. Two strong professional 9th pin fighters couldn't defeat an 8th pin fighter who had just entered the Dan stage by taking turns. The whole audience immediately burst into cheers, full of cathartic cheers. The shadow shrouded his body. Lu Qing knew that he was about to lose, but he didn't have any thoughts of giving up, struggling and admitting defeat. Just like in a life-and-death battle, who would give up without a fight? He wouldn't cry until he saw the King of Hell. He adjusted his muscles and quickly rolled back, but how could the rolling speed of his body compare to Wei Xingtian's striding attack? He was about to be caught up and was about to be kicked by a leg. At this moment, Lu Qing's body seemed to be hit by something. In an instant his mind flashed. He grabbed the ground with his left hand and waved it at Wei Xingtian. A handful of gravel shot out and went straight to the opponent's face. He didn't have time to grab the ground, but this was the last place where Lin Ke and Wei Xingtian collided fiercely. The ground was already broken and cracked. Sometimes life really needed a little luck. And this was also the result left by Lin Ke. Flying stones hit his face and sand confused his eyes. Wei Xingtian seemed to have returned to the days when he fought with gangsters. But he didn't dare to not dodge or block, because the eyes were not a place that could be trained by the bright stone skill. With Lu Qing's strength, those flying stones were enough to penetrate his eyelids and blind him. Was it worth it for preliminaries? Wei Xingtian's body instinctively paused. He quickly raised his left hand and blocked in front of his face to block the flying stones. Taking this opportunity, Lu Qing curled his body and moved forward instead of retreating. He didn't rush to stand up, but skillfully pressed left and right to hit between the opponent's legs. Wei Xingtian was experienced and prepared. His body sank and his right hand quickly pressed down like a falling hammer. Bang! Just after the collision, Lu Qing used the force to straighten his waist and bounced up. Wei Xingtian smiled coldly. His left arm was already hanging down and he hit out a crushing punch. "I'm waiting for you to try to stand up straight." However, Lu Qing didn't stand up. He directly rose into the air and stretched his body horizontally. He narrowly avoided the crushing punch that hit his lower abdomen. Then he spread his wings like a white crane and clapped his hands to hit Wei Xingtian's temples. Wei Xingtian took a breath and withdrew his strength. His arms quickly pulled back and held next to his head. The two palms hit each other. Before the muffled sound, Lu Qing changed from hitting to pressing. He used the force to turn over Wei Xingtian's head and landed behind him. Just after landing on the ground, Lu Qing bounced his waist and back and took a few big steps forward. He once again avoided Wei Xingtian's back kick. Then he exerted force under his feet and turned his body, bringing the situation back to balance again. This change was completely out of the expectation of most of the people present. They watched in a daze. They were still shouting, but their voices were gradually weakening. Yanzhika raised her hands and covered her face. She was surprised and happy. She couldn't believe it. Geezer sure coughed twice and said, "This little bastard has a bit of fighting wit." His words awakened all the members of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, and they all shouted in unison, "Hey!" Good. At the same time, the audience also woke up. They were angry and resentful. They broke out a tsunami-like abuse for Lu Cheng's shameless flying sand blinding eyes and monkey steals peach. Idiot. F***CKU. Fight fair and square if you dare. Lu Cheng had automatically filtered out their shouts. He only had eyes for Wei Xingtian opposite him. This time he didn't put on airs. Instead, he directly used his footwork and fiercely rushed over. Because in the 2 or 3 moves just now, he heard the disharmony of his opponent's body. He really felt Wei Xingtian's hidden weakness. Lu Cheng had fought to this extent and used his full strength so many times. He also collided with Lin Ke's meteor force. If Wei Xingtian still wasn't affected, Lu Cheng would suspect that he had entered the inhuman stage of Dan's stage. That was the level of professional 4th or 5th pin. The Jin Dan in Lu Cheng's body was expanding and contracting at this time. It slowly rotated and separated the flow of ice and fire. It soothed his tiredness and kept his physical strength in the best condition. So did his strength. Facing Lu Cheng's counterattack, Wei Xingtian's face was as calm as water. He didn't show any cowardice. He put strength in his waist and back and also rushed forward to meet Lu Cheng head-on. Crack. Just as the two of them approached each other, Lu Cheng stomped his foot and cracked a green brick. An avalanche-like violent force bounced up and wriggled his spine, creating a ferocious downward slash. Bam! The ground under Wei Xingtian's feet shattered. His right arm swung and the giant hammer hit from the side. Bang! In the sound of the collision, Lu Cheng's body shook and he took another step back. But this time he clearly felt that Wei Xingtian's strength was much weaker than at the beginning. Stepping on the ground, he suddenly exerted his strength. He bounced forward and used the force to shoot his seabed cannon, aiming at Wei Xingtian's abdomen. 24 blizzard strikes. Bang bang bang. Wei Xingtian didn't give even half a step. The two collided many times in a row. Lu Cheng was struggling at the beginning. He could barely hold on by retreating and other small skills. He only felt that his body was like a piece of forged iron that was constantly being hit and compressed by a giant hammer. It was quite difficult. There was a similar feeling of vibration inside his body. But after holding on for more than a minute, he slowly pulled back because his opponent's strength was really weakening. The audience in the stadium didn't notice this. They only saw Wei Xingtian suppressing Lu Cheng and beating him with a pair of chaotic hammers. It seemed that he could win at any time. So they burst into cheers again. Imo. Then they asked and answered themselves, Invincible Wei. Invincible Wei. Under the terrifying momentum of the home field, Lu Cheng only felt that he was suppressed to a certain extent by Wei Xingtian. The muscles and fascias of his body were passively tightened under the external force's continuous attacks. Passively there were withdrawing and pressing. He narrowed his eyes and followed this feeling. In his mind he immediately visualized the picture and sound of thunderclouds everywhere and thunder shaking. Boom. There seemed to be a burst of thunder in Lu Cheng's body. His right fist suddenly hit out. When it came into contact with Wei Xingtian's hammer, the tightened muscles and fascias all exploded together, like igniting gunpowder. Thunder roar zen. Passive thunder roar zen. Dang. Wei Xingtian suddenly felt as if he was an ancient bell that had been struck hard. There was a wave on the surface of his body, and a buzzing force entered his body, causing his bone marrow, blood, muscles and fascia to vibrate, causing his already uncomfortable internal organs to churn again. He almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. His body was stiff there, and the audience was still shouting, Invincible Wei. Successful in one move, it triggered the remaining influence in the enemy's body. Lu Cheng immediately stepped forward, leaned sideways and crazily hit like an avalanche. Bang. This time, Wei Xingtian couldn't retract his strength to deal with it. He could only barely hold up his arms to block, but Lu Cheng knocked him away. Deep in Lu Cheng's eyes, water condensed into ice. There was no emotional fluctuation. He slightly bounced back and hit forward again. Dong. He seemed to hit a stone and Wei Xingtian staggered back. Lu Cheng stepped forward, grabbed the enemy's left arm, pulled it back and hit him sideways again. He didn't use his full strength but used his skillful strength. Suddenly Wei Xingtian flew out to the edge of the ring not far away. Yimo. Wei Wu. The audience watched Wei Xingtian fall inch by inch like watching a slow-motion movie. The voices gradually stopped. Thump. Wei Xingtian landed on the ground, and the audience was silent. The referee stopped his blocking posture, raised his right hand and announced loudly, "The second round Lu Cheng wins." Hearing this sentence, Lu Cheng gasped and all kinds of emotions in his heart burst out. He turned back to look at the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, looked straight at Yan Zhika, clenched his fists and swung them up. He won. He really won. Yan Zhika jumped up from her seat and also cheered with clenched fists. After venting the tension and pressure of the battle, Lu Cheng recalled what happened just now. He suddenly raised his index finger, put it in front of his mouth, and proudly and slowly looked around the audience. Shut up. All of you shut up. Chapter 133. Facing Lu Cheng's shut-up gesture, the spectators in Yimo Martial Arts Stadium seemed to have their acupoints pressed and their mouths stuffed. They turned into clay puppets one after another. The whole stadium was silent for a while, presenting an extreme and strange silence. The invincible Wei Xingtian of Yimo actually lost. Although he lost to the powerful ninth pin in a tag team battle, since he was known as the invincible local, How could he not defeat two professional ninth pin fighters? After a short silence, they came back to their senses and realized that they were provoked and slapped in the face. Suddenly, they burst into a roar louder than the previous one. All kinds of classic Chinese curses were madly spewed out, such as F***K, F***K, idiot, and so on. Lu Qing put down his finger. He was very satisfied with the extreme silence of tens of thousands of people who dared to respond to him. He was also satisfied with the various curses he encountered now. The more they cursed, the more they exposed their lack of confidence, and the more it set off the silence just now. Just like a famous saying, the enemy's abuse and slander showed that you were successful enough. No wonder Master said that it was a very satisfying thing to fight until the whole stadium was silent and all the spectators were sullen and speechless. It was simply too satisfying. At the Songqing University Martial Arts Club seats, Li Mao, Sun Jian, Lin Hua, and Guqing were stunned at first. When the referee officially announced, they suddenly stood up, raised their hands, ignored the spectators, and cheered loudly. They didn't have their usual appearance and showed a bit of madness. They had been suppressed for too long and too ruthlessly. The battle just now, not to mention Lu Qing on the field, even the spectators felt that it was extremely torturous. Lu Qing was pushed into the abyss of despair several times, but he struggled to climb out again and again. Finally, he persisted until he saw the opportunity and saw the dawn of hope. He ruthlessly overturned the invincible Demon King who seemed to be invincible. When the breath in their hearts was vented, it was very satisfying. It was simply like eating a ginseng fruit. All the pores on their body opened up, not a single one of them was uncomfortable. The more difficult the battle, the more the joy and excitement of the victory reward surged. When Coach Sher encouraged them in the locker room, although they were also hot-blooded and full of fighting spirit in their hearts, they still didn't have much hope of breaking through the iron wall of the fearless squad, even if they had two strong professional ninth pin fighters on their side. After all, they were professional eighth pin fighters. However, Lu Qing and Lin Ke really created a miracle. The amount of self-denial he had before was equal to the amount of surprise he had now. Yan Zhika clenched her fists and cheered. She shouted out all the emotions in her heart, such as nervousness, uneasiness, expectation, surprise, and excitement, as if she had won the match herself. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement, and her eyes were shining brightly. Her whole person was extremely bright and attractive. When she saw Lu Qing gesturing for the audience to shut up, she suddenly restrained her ecstasy. Her eyes were like water, clear and gentle. Her mouth was smiling and her dimples were shallow. She felt strangely peaceful, as if she and Lu Qing were the only ones left in the world. At this time she vaguely heard Coach Sher murmur something in a low voice as if he was saying, "You really won. I just wanted to give you some motivation. Wasn't it a small goal?" Yan Zhika thought silently. Lin Ke, who had been staring at the ring, pursed his lips and slowly loosened his clenched right fist. In the live broadcast room, the commentator He Xiaowei and the host of the TV station looked at each other speechlessly. They could see the awkwardness on each other's faces. Every word they had said before seemed to have turned into slaps that were ruthlessly slapped back. After a short silence, He Xiaowei's expression became serious, and he said as if nothing had happened, "Taking advantage of this time, I will analyze what happened just now for everyone. Through the replay we can clearly see that Wei Xingtian was beaten until he was stiff. His body seemed to be vibrating. We have reason to believe that contestant Lu Qing used the tremor force, which was like a bomb exploding. The impact it brought shook the body from the outside to the inside, tumbled the blood and qi and affected the five viscera. Of course, with the physical quality of a professional eighth pin in the Dan stage, the tremor force shouldn't have caused such a big impact. But I have noticed one thing. Director, please replay these few scenes of the match between Wei Xingtian and Lin Ke. Everyone saw it. Contestant Wei Xingtian was also stiff, but he forcibly resolved it by relying on the ability of the Dan stage. In the final fierce collision between him and Lin Ke, he must have suffered internal injuries. His five viscera and six bowels were unstable, so he quickly became weaker and weaker. In the end, he was affected by Lu Qing's tremor force, which triggered the previous internal injuries. It was difficult for him to recover quickly and he was on the verge of failure. Lu Qing fought very fiercely in this match, but he was also very calm. He seized almost every opportunity he could, from getting rid of the disadvantage to seizing the victory. Of course, he was also lucky enough to fall to the place where the rubble was left behind by the previous battle. As for the question of civilization, I will only say one thing. Martial arts itself is the most uncivilized thing. Every move and every style is created to kill or cripple the opponent, not to stop. In addition, if such a martial artist doesn't even know how to make use of the environment, he might as well go home and nurse his child. In short, this is a victory worthy of congratulations. There is a little luck factor but more because of strength. The TV host was stunned. He looked at He Xiaowei as if he was looking at a monster. His eyes seemed to be roaring and questioning, "That's not what you said just now. How can you slap your own face?" He Xiaowei calmly looked back at him and secretly scolded, "You're so stupid. Do you think a nationally famous commentator can be found casually? This is an impetuous society. If you want to be famous, you have to be extreme. You have to shock people to death with your words. How many people scold and ridicule you is how famous you are, and fame is equal to money. It's not that I can't see some things, but I have to say the opposite. Anyone can explain it by following the rules. How can you stand out? Isn't there a song that is very good? Exaggerated. As for face? Is face more important than money? Give me a few million and I'll scold myself to death in minutes. You don't even know how to dry your own face, how can you be a commentator? And this is why you're only a local TV host, and I'm nationally famous." While his inner thoughts were playing out in his mind, his mouth still didn't stop talking. Now Fearless Squad is in a bit of danger. Contestant Lu Cheng seemed to be an arrow at the end of its flight after such an intense battle. However, if contestant Dong Yi from Fearless Squad really thinks that way, then they're finished. According to the data, Lu Cheng has abnormal stamina. He might even be gifted in stamina. In Lu Cheng's private forum, the live broadcast posts were exploding. Yan Shaoling and Brahman kept posting, venting their inner excitement and joy. As for the content, many of them were meaningless tone phrases and all kinds of praises. They couldn't wait to use all the compliments they had learned. In particular, they felt that Lu Cheng's gesture to the audience to shut up was so cool that it was exploding. After a while, Yan Shaoling suddenly realized something. "Wait a minute, I remember someone just posted that if Lu Cheng wins, she will send seeds. Someone also said that if Lu Cheng wins, she will run around naked to celebrate." Unparalleled Dragon King had been waiting for a long time and immediately replied, after reminiscing about the twists and turns of the match, "I'm waiting to run around naked. Live broadcast please." Nye Chichi also said happily. There was nothing more delightful than seeing Lu Cheng defeat a powerful enemy and having something to cheer about. Many IDs that usually lurked appeared, saying that they were waiting to run around naked. After a short while, Okamoto's fan said, "I'm the one who wants to send seeds. After the match ends, I'll drive." Beep student card. Yan Shaoling added, "I found the one who said that he wants to run around naked. Come out." At all the good names are eaten by dogs. All the good names are eaten by dogs appeared weakly. I'm going to the bathroom to run around naked. There's no live broadcast." Tiske. Everyone replied in unison. In Lu Cheng's dormitory, Kai Zongming and others couldn't help but cheer loudly and celebrate heartily. The opponent's strength was fully demonstrated through 2 consecutive matches, which really established the image of an unbeatable opponent. However, Cheng still defeated him. Even if the process was full of difficulties and he almost lost the match, it was fine as long as the result was good. The more difficult the process, the better the taste of victory. "I can't King recognize Cheng in the ring?" Kai Zongming praised. Chinamo clicked his tongue in agreement. "Thinking about how someone who can kill me with a single slap is usually so polite to me, I feel like it's unreal." When Wei Xingtian was beaten out of the ring, the seats of Fearless Squad were silent as if they were hallucinating. After a dozen seconds, Dong Yi threw away his jacket, stood up suddenly and walked towards the ring, leaving his confused teammates. At this time, Wei Xingtian, who majored in bright stone skill, turned over and stood up. He rubbed his chest and walked to the stone steps of the ring. He stopped Dong Yi and said in a low voice, "Don't be careless. His physical strength is abnormal. He doesn't seem to be weak." Dong Yi was stunned and looked at the ring. He didn't know why, but his heart was suddenly filled with mixed feelings. Since the establishment of Fearless Squad, most people paid attention to and talked about Wei Xingtian, who was invincible in Yimo, and Qiu Yang, who was young and full of talent. Very few people mentioned him, and in the matches he participated in, it was indeed difficult for him to play an important role. But this time Wei Xingtian failed, Qiu Yang was injured, and the opponent's momentum was at its peak. The squad was on the verge of defeat. "I am the only one left, and I am the only one who can carry this heavy burden." He took a breath, nodded to Wei Xingtian and walked up the stone steps. "I am also of professional 9th pin, and I am not worse than any fighter of the same level." When Wei Xingtian returned to his seat, Qiu Yang asked with concern, "Brother Wei, are you okay?" Wei Xingtan shook his head. Some small injuries, nothing serious. Do you think old Dong can stop Lu Qing? Qiu Yang asked anxiously. Wei Xingtian looked at the ring, paused for a moment and finally spat out 3 words, I don't know. Seeing Dong Yi enter the ring, Yanjika sat down again, looking forward to Lu Cheng's second battle. Among all the people present, only she and Coach Shi knew how abnormal Cheng's physical strength was. As long as he was not injured in the previous battle, this battle was equivalent to a new appearance, and there was a small possibility that he would win. Can he really defeat Fearless Squad? She whispered to herself. Geezer Shi snorted, that depends on whether the opponent is shameless. On the ring, Lu Qing stood calmly, waiting for Dong Yi to approach step by step. Right now, his momentum was like a rainbow and he was full of confidence in himself. Chapter 134. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Li Mao and Gui Qing sat down again. They were whispering excitedly to each other. Do you think Qing can continue to work hard and defeat Dong Yi? Sun Jian looked at the arena and asked with both expectation and worry. Li Mao didn't turn his head. He watched Dong Yi climb up the stairs and said excitedly, I think there is a big chance. I went to Cheng's private forum and read his information and previous competition videos. I found that he is indeed talented in physical strength. As long as he didn't get hurt in the competition with Wei Xingtian, he shouldn't consume too much energy. He is at a disadvantage when facing Dong Yi, but he can completely suppress him. You've seriously watched Cheng's competition videos? Sun Jian asked in surprise. To be honest, after discovering Lu Cheng's meteoric rise to become the main force of the martial arts club, he had also looked up the relevant information. However, he had only swallowed the information in order to get a general understanding. After all, Cheng was his teammate, not his enemy. Why should he waste his time to study him in detail? Li Mao smiled bitterly and said, I'm just curious. If anyone was in his position, it was impossible not to be curious. After witnessing Lu Cheng's transformation from a true newbie to a skilled beginner, it seemed that he had become much more powerful than himself in just a short time. How could he not be curious about this? Did he not want to understand the details? If he didn't, he wouldn't be able to recover from the shock. Sun Jian didn't ask and said with a smile, I hope Cheng still has energy left after defeating Dong Yi and help me exhaust Tan Ming. Then I have a good chance of ending the competition. They only thought of winning 1 or 2 rounds and going home with dignity. But now they suddenly realized that they might be able to win the whole competition. Qiu Yang was injured and there was only one professional 9th pin fighter left. But Lu Qing was famous for his physical strength. They didn't dare to say that they would win, but at least they had a 40% to 40% chance of winning now. Sitting in front of them, Yanjika was silently cheering and praying. Hearing the discussion behind her, she felt a little harsh. Everyone was too confident in Qing. Usually when they praised Qing like this, she would be so happy that she couldn't hide her smile. But now they were facing a strong opponent and the result was not clear yet. Couldn't they be more low-key and not give Qing bad advice? Was he messed up because of his concern? She couldn't hold it in any longer. She turned around, put her palms together, smiled apologetically and pleaded, Please don't say it, accumulate good karma, let's keep a low profile and accumulate good karma. Sun Jian, Li Mao, and the others immediately realized what was going on. They all covered their mouths in different ways, indicating that they understood. At the same time, they were a little jealous of Lu Cheng. His girlfriend's gesture, expression, and eyes were so adorable. The group of gamblers who were watching the live broadcast collapsed on the sofa one by one. Their faces were ashen and they were dumbstruck. The leader muttered to himself with a blank look in his eyes. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with eating by looking at the sky. What's the use of analyzing the strength of the bets? At this moment, the young man who had suggested to buy in the opposite direction of Xiaowei suddenly realized something. Big brother, there's no problem now. That toxic healer commentator is now leaning towards Songqing University Martial Arts Club. This was the protection of the mysterious power. Hearing this, the other gamblers were instantly revived and began to watch the competition attentively. Although Lu Qing was full of confidence, it didn't mean that he would look down on a fighter of professional 9th pin. When he saw Dong Yi walking up the ring step by step, the opponent's information naturally appeared in his mind. This ordinary-looking man was 28 years old this year. He was the oldest and the most low-key one among the 3 main members of the Fearless Squad. His ancestors were from a famous martial arts family in Yimo. It was said that they originated from Shangqing sect. Even the family's martial arts, Rolling Thunder Palm, was derived from one of the unique skills of the Thunder sect. However, after experiencing the changes of the country and getting rid of the old and ushering in the new, the Dong family had declined for many generations. Only Dong Yi was left. Dong Yi didn't open a martial arts school. Instead, he became a high school teacher. In his spare time, he participated in various small challenge tournaments and received a lot of prize money. He didn't rely on his salary to make a living. This time he was invited by Wei Xingtian. He was moved by the prospect of advancing in the division and was tempted by the hope of stepping into the Dan stage. His rolling thunder palm was closely related to fast and fierce. It was a completely different style from Wei Xingtian and Qiuyang. His fighting style was more flexible and agile. However, once he grasped the opportunity, his palm could crack stones and was as fast as thunder. It had a terrifying ability to burst out in a short period of time. It wasn't inferior to strength. In the rolling thunder palm, there was also a unique skill called Thunderbolt Blast. It was a sound attack similar to Lion's Roar. There was thunder in the belly and the sound from the mouth, shaking the opponent's ear and causing dizziness. For this kind of martial arts, before the martial arts reached a certain level, there was really no way to defend. One could only prepare in advance and leave some thoughts. Once encountered, one would immediately bite the tip of the tongue and other methods to quickly wake up and avoid the follow-up attack. However, if one was distracted to guard against this skill, the power of one's fists and feet would be reduced. It would be impossible to concentrate and go all out, which would weaken one's strength in disguise. Therefore, under certain circumstances, as the old saying goes, some martial arts are more threatening when not used than when used. Lu Cheng's power of blaze actually had a similar function. Unfortunately, it was not as good as Dong Yi's Thunderbolt Blast. Martial arts practitioners had rough skin and thick flesh. Once they were mentally prepared, the possibility of subconsciously shaking their hands after being burned was very low. There was no need to deliberately be distracted, unless the strength and temperature of the power of blaze was increased. Such a professional ninth pin was indeed not someone he could guarantee to win. Lu Cheng was very clear. He wouldn't put himself in a higher position than other professional ninth pin fighters just because he defeated Wei Xingtian in a tag team battle. Not to mention that there was a little luck factor just now. If he underestimated the enemy who was similar to or just a little weaker than himself, a disastrous end was foreseeable. It was unknown how many famous martial artists were ultimately ruined by this blind arrogance. There was even a lack of people who paid the price with their lives. Lu Cheng slightly moved both of his arms and felt their current situation. After the fierce battle with Wei Xingtian, although his physical strength was as good as before and there was no consumption, there were some hard wounds on the corresponding parts of his arms. Moreover, his mental and physical strength were almost exhausted. He had to rely on emotional outbursts and a strong momentum to maintain his peak state. The Jindan could heal fatigue and maintain physical strength, but it couldn't heal injuries and also couldn't restore mental exhaustion. How could he not rack his brains when fighting with a strong opponent like Wei Xingtian? Whether it was the unusually focused investment, the calm and firm judgment, or the belief to overcome nervousness and fear, it caused a lot of consumption of the so-called mental and physical strength. Once the mental and physical strength was consumed too much, there would be a phenomenon of thinking sluggishness, trance, and not being able to react in time. That was a big taboo in martial arts competitions. As for the Thunder Roar Zen, he was only able to use it under the condition of Wei Xingtian's help, in suppressing and withdrawing. Although he also had some experience, opened the door and found the direction, but if he really wanted to cross the threshold, he still needed a certain amount of time to explore, try and temper. Just like what his master said, breakthrough was a process, not a node. He stood in the center with a high momentum, but calmly and steadily, watching Dong Yi go up the ring and stand on the other side of the referee. Dong Yi suppressed the mixed feelings in his heart, and his ears were filled with cheers one after another. Dong Yi! Come on! It was still a response type of cheering, but it was more than a level lower than the previous roar. Dong Yi could even hear the fear and uneasiness of the fear of failure contained in it. Am I their life-saving straw? Dong Yi closed his eyes and suddenly opened them again. Behind him was only Tan Ming of amateur first pin. If he couldn't beat Lu Cheng in this match or caused him to be injured, the result could be imagined. Although Fearless Squad was strong, there was no way back. At this moment, the referee didn't give Lu Cheng a chance to recover, and shouted loudly, "Start." Dong Yi immediately visualized a flash of lightning in his mind. He bounced his waist and back, and the strength went through the soles of his feet, and pounced on Lu Cheng as fast as thunder. Lu Cheng had already adjusted his body to let his center of gravity flow like mercury, so that he could display his strength better than a professional ninth-pin fighter. At this moment, as his waist and back wriggled, there seemed to be a round ball in his body, and it drove him to the side of Dong Yi like a ghost. But because his opponent was too fast, he couldn't pull away. Seeing this, Dong Yi didn't turn around. He stomped his feet, and his left elbow hit out horizontally with a snap, fast and fierce. Lu Cheng put his left foot inward, straightened his back, tightened his right arm, and suddenly pressed down, just in time to block this fierce elbow attack. But at this moment, Dong Yi used the blocked elbow as a fulcrum, and with a snap, he threw out his forearm and hit Lu Cheng's genitals with a crisp palm. The whole movement was done in one breath, and it was extremely fierce. Snap. Lu Cheng's left hand had been waiting there for some time, and it blocked the attack without panic. And this was all because he and Yan Zhika had carefully studied the video of Dong Yi's fight a few days ago. In today's society, martial arts competitions were flourishing, and the spread of fighting videos was fast because of the internet, showing a trend of a big explosion of information. Every fighter only needed to fight a few more times, and his future opponents would thoroughly study his moves, and many of his killer moves and unique moves would no longer be unexpected. This was something that the ancient fighters couldn't imagine. In their view, it was right to defeat all the geniuses with one move. Today they killed a strong opponent in the south with this move, and tomorrow they would go to the north without knowing anything about it. In addition, the challenge tournament was a life and death battle with a referee, which only reduced the death and disability rate. Apart from the psychological aspect, it was not much different from reality, which attracted the participation of strong fighters. Therefore, the number of fights that the fighters of today had in their lives was probably 10 times or even 100 times more than those of their predecessors, and in every fight they had almost no secrets. They had to constantly explore and innovate their moves in order to defeat their opponents. Under the pressure of this almost cruel environment, the fighters of the same level in modern times would definitely be better than those in ancient times. Dong Yi had a deep understanding of this. Failing to succeed in one move, he immediately took advantage of the rebound force to withdraw his left arm, so as not to be caught by Lu Cheng's big and small hand wrap, and enter the field of listening skill, which he was best at. Seeing Dong Yi retreat, Lu Cheng immediately slid forward, tightened his thigh muscles and kicked out with the tip of his foot, aiming at his opponent's ankle. He wanted to use the fierceness and madness of the brutal blizzard, combined with the rainbow-like momentum that defeated Wei Xingtian, and completely suppress his opponent. Chapter 135. In the face of Lu Cheng's following low kick, Dong Yi had no time to retreat. He could only twist his waist and pull out his leg. Using his leg as his foot, he straightened his leg and kicked out. Bam! When the 2 feet collided, Lu Cheng's calf tightened. He pushed his knee and directed the rebounding force to his thigh and then to his waist and abdomen, straightening his spine. He used Dong Yi's foot as the ground to complete the second force. His right hand punched out quickly and fiercely. After numerous actual battles, especially the diversion force during the fierce battle with Wei Xingtian today, his mastery of the 24 blizzard strikes seemed to have improved to a higher level. He was actually able to connect the follow-up attacks in such an unimaginable way. There was really a feeling of continuous howling of the brutal blizzard. Dong Yi originally wanted to take advantage of the situation to dodge and open up the distance. He wanted to deal with it with his best flexible fighting style. However, before he could do anything, Lu Cheng's attacks came one after another. They were crazy and fierce, leaving no chance for him. He had no choice but to hurriedly raise his left arm, retract his right foot and step on the ground. He lowered his center of gravity, turned his waist and back fiercely, vibrating his joints and sending out a swing force. Bang! Lu Cheng's fist hit the middle of his arm. His body shook involuntarily. However, because his opponent reacted hastily and he had a lot of experience, he stepped on the ground with his right foot, wriggled his spine, straightened his waist and pulled his body back. Then he shook his left arm and shot out his fist like a spear, forcing Dong Yi to give up dodging again and hit him with his palm. This made Lu Cheng very happy. He launched 24 blizzard strikes one after another, constantly borrowing strength and taking advantage of the situation. Each punch was heavier than the previous one, and each kick was fiercer than the previous one. The more he fought, the crazier and fiercer he became. The cheers of the audience gradually died down as if they were holding their breath. Dong Yi was on the verge of collapsing under the violent snowstorm. He knew that if this continued, he would be beaten to a pulp. His opponent's current aura gave him a feeling of crushing everything in its path. I can't wait any longer. With a twist of his waist and back, He abruptly pushed his feet inward and sent a violent spiral force to the ground. The ring immediately trembled, like a house that was shaking in the thunder. There was a faint clanging sound that reverberated in the air. Dong Yi's shoes burst open. His palms were like rolling thunder, fiercely and terrifyingly striking towards Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng continued to borrow strength. At this moment, his momentum was at its peak, so he wasn't afraid. He visualized the lightning and fire stance and mega avalanche. He lowered his center of gravity and leaned his arched leg to one side to support himself against the ground. With a mighty and unstoppable momentum, he swung his right arm and struck out a mountain blast punch. He met attack with attack, met force with force, and did not retreat an inch. Bang! With one fist against two palms, Lu Cheng and Dong Yi's bodies both swayed backwards. They were evenly matched. At this moment, Dong Yi's abdomen suddenly wriggled and his throat opened. Go! Thunderclaps exploded, the sound of thunder shook the heavens. Lu Cheng didn't expect Dong Yi to use his unique skill in such a situation. His head buzzed for a moment. Waves seemed to appear in his frozen heart lake, forming a whirlpool and breaking the ice layer continuously. This made him feel dizzy and his throat was almost filled with the smell of rust. He could no longer maintain his center of gravity and stumbled backward. Fortunately, he didn't underestimate Dong Yi. He maintained a cautious posture and bit the tip of his tongue at the critical moment. The stinging pain woke Lu Cheng up instantly. He quickly adjusted his center of gravity and kept the momentum of retreating, hoping to increase the distance and avoid the continuous attacks. However, Dong Yi didn't feel good after using his killing moves. He took a step back and then pounced again. He visualized the speed of thunder in his mind. He bounced his back and caught up with Lu Cheng in a few steps. His right palm formed a knife and suddenly chopped towards his opponent's throat. Lu Cheng just regained his balance and didn't have time to react. He could only twitch his shoulder and raise his right arm to block in front of his body. Bang! When the knife palm chopped Lu Cheng's arm, Dong Yi's left hand formed a bird's beak and quietly poked out, pecking at Lu Cheng's waist. Right palm leading, left palm poking, silent attack. This was the most dangerous killing move. Once the peck hit, Lu Cheng's waist would be crippled. At this moment, Lu Cheng, whose heart lake had been frozen again, suddenly felt his hair stand on end, as if he had sensed some kind of danger. Although he hadn't learned the basics of Ice Mirror, after so many days of hard practice, his condensation stance's sensing ability had improved a lot. With the advantage of his advanced meditation, he could simulate some of the feeling of absolute reaction. However, some was still some. Lu Cheng could only sense the change of his hair standing on end. He couldn't sense how and where the enemy attacked. Without thinking, he tightened his right thigh and gave a fierce side kick to Dong Yi's genitals. He was using offense as defense. Dong Yi certainly wouldn't trade his life for Lu Cheng's waist. Seeing this, he gave up the dark thunder palm, lowered his center of gravity, and quickly pressed down his left palm to block Lu Cheng's kick. Lu Cheng withdrew his kick, turned around and swept out his left leg. Bam! His left leg straightened like a soft whip and kicked towards Dong Yi's knee joint, forcing his opponent to block with his leg. After the collision and rebound, Lu Cheng took advantage of the momentum and launched a brutal blizzard attack again, bringing the situation back to the beginning. From the moment Dong Yi used the thunderbolt explosion, to the moment everything calmed down and returned to normal, the entire audience seemed to have experienced a great drama with ups and downs. Their cheers and encouragement for Dong Yi's victory had just reached their throats, but before they could reach their mouths, they abruptly stopped and were forcefully swallowed back down. Yan Zhika in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club seat didn't have much reaction. Compared to the battle between Lu Cheng and Wei Xingtian, the danger just now seemed to be nothing. Deep in her heart, she seemed to be sure that Lu Cheng would be able to resolve the crisis. Of course, worry, nervousness, fear and other emotions were instinctive and couldn't be completely controlled. This made her body tremble slightly, and her hands unconsciously clenched as if she was praying. Behind Yan Zhika, Sun Jian, Li Mao and the others let out a long sigh. Until now, they had just walked out of the danger just now. After a while, Dong Yi once again felt the terror of Lu Cheng getting fiercer and fiercer. He almost had the illusion that Lu Cheng would never stop. He took a deep breath as if there was a thunder in his body pulling at his abdomen. Open. Another thunderbolt from the clear sky, and Lu Cheng's movement slowed down. But compared to the killing move that he had planned for a long time, Dong Yi's hasty outbreak this time was not strong enough to make Lu Cheng feel dizzy. He also knew this, so he didn't want to hurt his enemy. He dodged to the side and opened up the distance with thunder-shocking steps. Lu Cheng took a deep breath, straightened his waist and back and strode forward, chasing after him. Mixed with the momentum of defeating Wei Xingtian and the crazy attack just now, he showed the power of chasing after a desperate enemy bravely. Dong Yi's speed was faster than Lu Qing, but he didn't have the ability of mercurial balance, so he wasn't as flexible as his opponent. And the arena was limited, so he couldn't just run in a straight line. He had to watch every time he changed his direction and position. The distance between him and Lu Qing would be shortened, making them closer and closer. Even I, a newcomer in the arena, began to feel tired, but he didn't show any sign of weakening after 2 fierce fights. Dong Yi's heart skipped a beat, knowing that he couldn't get rid of Lu Qing. Seeing Lu Qing was so powerful, like an overbearing and horrible statue, his spirit was immediately taken away and his courage was shaken. Lu Qing caught up with Dong Yi in large strides, raised his left hand, and smashed his fist down toward Dong Yi's neck. Seeing this scene, the entire audience seemed to have vaguely sensed something and fell silent again. Seeing Lu Qing's punch, Dong Yi's eyes suddenly shrank. He didn't block it with his palm, but straightened his waist and straightened his spine, forcibly moving an inch to his left. At the same time, his left hand was as fast as thunder, poking at Lu Qing's right chest. This change happened in a flash. Lu Qing didn't expect that Dong Yi would completely give up defense, so he didn't have time to break the inertia to avoid the blow. He could only lean to the left, letting Dong Yi's palm graze his chest and poke the inside of his right arm. Yanjika jumped up. In the heart-wrenching pain, Lu Qing's left fist also hit Dong Yi's right shoulder. Crack. Dong Yi's shoulder collapsed and his bones were broken. Enduring the pain, Lu Qing resolutely attacked. His left arm bounced back, shook violently and hit Dong Yi's temple. It was time to see who was more ruthless and faster. Bam. A palm blocked his left fist. The referee looked at Dong Yi, who had given up resistance, and raised his other hand, saying loudly, "Lu Qing wins." Until now, Lu Qing finally had time to reflect on the change just now. He covered the wound on his right arm with his hand and asked puzzledly, "Why bother? It's just a preliminaries, not a critical moment for qualifying. Why bother to exchange a broken shoulder for a minor injury? Why bother?" Dong Yi smiled bitterly and seemed to sigh, "I can only play this role." The spectators in the stands finally understood and suddenly shouted in unison, "That's right. Dong Yi, Dong Yi, Dong Yi." Their voices were a little sad but also deeply moved. Dong Yi was creating a chance for the last player to win. Dong Yi, Dong Yi, Dong Yi. Hearing the cheers in the stadium, Lu Qing didn't make any hand gestures this time. He was moved by the tragic atmosphere, but he also enjoyed the tragedy of his enemy. He was quite satisfied to be able to beat the arrogant Yimo audience into a tragic state. He didn't tell Dong Yi out of kindness that he had exhausted a lot of his mental strength and was about to reach his limit. If he persevered for one more round, his chance would come. In the fearless squad seating area, Tan Ming stood up instinctively and walked towards the arena blankly. At this moment, Qiu Yang behind him shouted, "Go to the competition supervisor and report your injury. Ask for a substitute player." Tan Ming turned around and whispered in astonishment, I'm not injured." Qiu Yang had already walked in front of him. He supported him with his left hand and leaned to one side to block the camera. His right hand secretly punched out and hit his abdomen. Tan Ming bent down and heard Qiu Yang say in a low voice, "You're injured now." The pain finally woke Tan Ming up. He remembered that the big boy in front of him had a very popular nickname in Yimo. Mad Dog. Mad Dog, Qiu Yang. Chapter 136. Dong, Dong, Dong. The cheers echoed in the arena, full of a sense of tragedy. Dong Yi's eyes were slightly wet. He endured the pain, waved his uninjured left hand, turned around and walked out of the arena lonely. Such cheers, such attention were what he had been longing for a long time, but the sad thing was that it was a failure, not a victory. Fortunately, Lu Qing's right arm was injured, so he would be crippled for the rest of the match. It opened the door for him to win the final round. He didn't let down the heavy burden on his shoulders. As he waved his hand and left the arena, the cheers of Dong Yi became louder and louder. Lu Qing listened quietly and watched his opponent leave. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Although he couldn't understand his thoughts or his choice, he respected the decisiveness, firmness and courage he had just displayed. Not every martial artist would dare to do so. Lu Qing moved his right arm a little and checked his injury. He didn't find any symptoms of bone fracture, but the place where he was poked was swollen. His muscles and fascia were damaged to a certain extent, which seriously affected his strength. In other words, it was an injury that could be healed in a short time. But the problem was that a short time was at least a few days. In the upcoming match, his arm would be crippled. Forget it, I'll do my best. Even if I lose an arm, I'm still not an amateur first pin fighter. No matter what, I can exhaust him and create an opportunity for Sun Jian to win the match. In the amateur level, the gap between first pin fighters was actually not that big. At this time, he was puzzled to find that the third fighter of Fearless Squad didn't rush to the arena. Instead, he stayed where he was and discussed something with Qiu Yang. Did he give up? Did he think that my stamina was limitless, so he didn't care about giving me more time to recover? Lu Qing didn't waste this opportunity. He closed his eyes, concealed his spirit and qi, and quickly entered a state of meditation. He put himself in a state close to sleep. Recovering a little bit of spirit was good. The Jindan was like a nebula, constantly expanding and shrinking, rotating slowly. Lu Qing felt like he was looking inside his own home. Thoughts settled one after another, floating like floating clouds. His heart was empty and quiet. Seeing that Lu Qing could still move his right arm, Yanjika heaved a sigh of relief and sat back down. She pouted and complained to Dong Yi, "How can this be? This wasn't an important match, so it wouldn't affect their chances of advancing to the next round. Why was his opponent acting like a madman and paying the price of a serious fracture just to hurt Qing?" Cheng's injury looked like he would recover in at most 10 days, but it was not the case for his opponent. As the saying goes, it takes 100 days to recover from a serious injury. Even if a martial artist's physique was outstanding and his recovery ability was extremely strong, he would not be able to fight again for at least 50 to 60 days before reaching the inhuman level. By then, the group matches would have ended long ago. Wouldn't it be stupid to miss the next 5 matches just for this one match? How much hatred and resentment. While Yanjika felt distressed, confused and indignant, Geezer Shi replied with a sigh. There are too many bigoted people in this world, and there are also too many bystanders who can't understand what they value. With Fearless Squad's strength and martial artist style, without today's incident, when Qiu Yang returns and Wei Xingtian is alive and kicking again, how would Dong Yi have the chance to be remembered? Maybe he won't even be able to go on stage. The 2 people in front will take care of everything. After being ignored for so long, I have a desire to prove myself. Maybe this is a kind of martial artist spirit. Wei Xingtian majored in Brightstone skill. Lu Qing had restrained his strength at the end and used a delicate force, so although he was hit hard just now, in fact he was not seriously injured. For him, what was more uncomfortable was that his internal organs were shaken. After a few days of rest, he would be able to recover to his peak state. Yanjika was born in a martial arts family, so she could understand. She nodded silently to show that she understood. But even so, she still disliked Dong Yi and still felt distressed for Lu Qing. In the live broadcast room, the host of Yimo local TV station was shocked by the resolute and tragic scene. After a long time he murmured, "It's not necessary. Xiaowei, what do you think?" Xiaowei smacked his lips and said, "This match is a bit tragic. If not for the background, I would have thought it was the key battle for the qualification of Songqing Division. Dong Yi's courage is admirable, but I can't understand his choice. With Fearless Squad strength, losing this match won't be so bad that they can't qualify. They have already defeated another popular team, Azure Dragon Squad, in the last match. The following matches are all opponents who are obviously weaker than them. Losing a match would at most be a loss of face. But now, I'm afraid Dong Yi will miss all the following group matches. Whether he can participate in the knockout match in May depends on his recovery. The loss outweighs the gain. Of course, with only the recovered Qiu Yang and Wei Xingtian, Fearless Squad will be able to defeat the weak in the following group matches. It's not a big problem even without Dong Yi. When they challenged Azure Dragon Squad in an away match, didn't Qiu Yang win 2 matches in a row? Wei Xingtian won the last match, and Dong Yi disguised as a coach to watch and cheer. Fearless Squad was led by Wei Xingtian without a coach. As for Lu Qing's group, the favorites to qualify were Yimo's Fearless Squad, with 1 Dan stage and 2 professional 9th pin fighters, and Songqing's Azure Dragon Squad, with 4 professional 9th pin fighters. If their strength was compared horizontally, in Xioshan's division, they could directly enter the second stage of the preliminaries. In many divisions, even if there was only 1 professional 9th pin fighter leading the team, there was still hope for the team to qualify and participate in the knockout round. In the middle of Lu Qing's group, there were 2 professional 9th pin fighters in Hongluo Squad and Songqing University Martial Arts Club members. The other 4 teams were relatively weak. 2 teams only had 1 professional 9th pin fighter, and the other 2 teams were purely amateur teams who came to see and experience because there were no restrictions in the preliminaries. In other words, even if Fearless Squad were to lose the match with Lu Cheng's team, the only opponent with any weight behind them would be Hong Luo Squad. Moreover, it would be in the last round. Although He Xiaowei was exaggerating a little by saying that the rest of the competition would be Hong Luo Squad, he wasn't wrong. The TV host listened and agreed. He couldn't understand Dong Yi's choice, so he could only smooth things over. No matter what, Dong Yi showed us the courage and spirit of a fighter. Xiaowei, what do you think of the next match? He Xiaowei laughed and said, although Lu Cheng's hand is temporarily disabled, he has mercurial balance and abnormal physical strength. Why would he be afraid of an amateur first pin fighter? He will exhaust his opponent to death. Even if Lu Cheng reaches his limit halfway, Songqing University Martial Arts Club has other fighters. I think Fearless Squad will lose 99% of the time. As soon as he finished, the TV host heard the director's prompt, and his expression suddenly became strange. Xiaowei, Fearless Squad's 3rd fighter, Tan Ming, suddenly fell ill and can't fight. He will be replaced by a substitute. He Xiaowei couldn't help but chuckle. Are you scared? Are you scared? The TV host quickly added, the substitute is Qiu Yang. He Xiaowei was stunned and said, it's a bit interesting. The gamblers watching the live broadcast cheered and almost ran to tell others. Good news, good news. That toxic healer commentator supported Songqing University Martial Arts Club. And as soon as he supported, he immediately turned the situation around. In Lu Cheng's private forum, which was originally full of content such as pity, is the opponent stupid, beat another professional 9th pin fighter, and so on, suddenly exploded. All the good names are taken by dogs, was the first to post. Damn, where's your shame? This is completely shameless. So angry, but I still have to keep a smile. Lu Cheng has won 2 rounds in a row and he has earned enough. Eternal Nightfall, Yin Shaoling followed. Unparalleled Dragon King said weakly, according to the rules, it's normal for a substitute to fight. Otherwise, why would there be a substitute? But the sudden illness is too fake. There were regulations on the conditions under which a substitute could fight. It was not something that could be changed by the coach on a whim. In that case, the list and order of the 3 main fighters would not be necessary. It was completely possible to decide who would fight first and put the original main fighters on the substitute. Depending on the situation, the order of replacement could be arranged flexibly. Therefore, the competition supervisor had to confirm that the main fighters were injured, sick, or mentally broken before they could be replaced. Generally speaking, it was a last resort. Nye Chichi said bitterly, even if they shamelessly win this time with the speed of Lu Cheng and Lin Kei's growth, they can win the knockout round after the group competition. At that time, we can block them at the entrance of the qualification. That's the best way to vent our anger. I still want to say beat that mad dog. Brahman shouted. Humph, kids don't need to think about reality anyway. Damn, I'm still waiting for Cheng to fight 1 against 3. In Songqing University's dormitory, Kai Zhongming blurted out. His roommates cursed for a while before calming down. Zhao Chang pushed his black-rimmed glasses and said, it's worth it to lose since they can force Fearless Squad to this point. It doesn't matter anymore. Classmate Little Ming looked at him, sadly. But I placed a bet. Although it was not much, it was still 200. In Songqing University Martial Arts Club's seating area, Yinjika wasn't angry. Instead, she solved the lingering doubts in her heart. She turned to look at Coach Shi and said, they are really shameless. She wasn't angry or surprised, but she was very disappointed and distressed. She felt that Lu Cheng's all-out battle was wasted, and that Cheng's injury and pain just now were not worth it. Geezer Shi snorted. To put it in a better way, Fearless Squad is full of abnormal desire for victory. Beside and behind him, Li Mao and the others loosened their clenched fists and sighed. Lin Kei closed his eyes and seemed to exhale softly. Qiu Yang. Qiu Yang. Qiu Yang. Seeing Qiu Yang walking into the ring, the desperate and tragic audience suddenly burst into thunderous cheers, making this name reverberate in every corner of the martial arts arena. Lu Cheng, who was sleeping in the middle of the ring, felt that everything around him was being pulled away and separated from him. Although he vaguely felt that the sound around him suddenly became louder, he couldn't hear clearly what the audience was shouting. After a while, he felt something in his heart and suddenly opened his eyes. He saw a big boy walking up the stone steps. Qiu Yang? Lu Cheng blurted out in surprise. Qiu Yang was also puzzled. He frowned slightly and said, "You just found out? You should have known from the moment the match supervisor checked Tan Ming's physical condition, right?" "I fell asleep just now." Lu Qing answered silently. Of course he didn't say it out loud. He felt that his answer would make him look wrong. Yes. He maintained an unfathomable smile and didn't explain anything. At the same time, he took a light breath and felt that his head was much clearer. Chapter 137. Lu Qing seized the time to recover a little so that his thinking and reaction would not slow down immediately. But he also paid a price. He had just learned that his opponent had been replaced by Qiu Yang, so he had no time to carefully recall Qiu Yang's match images and relevant information. Fortunately, Qiu Yang's fighting style was distinctive and his personal characteristics were very strong, which left a deep impression on him. Now, after a little thinking, many key points naturally emerged, so he was not at a loss. Qiu Yang, nicknamed Mad Dog, was the type who fought desperately and crazily. He was the type who was not afraid of death and seldom defended or simply dodged. He liked to attack with attack, take risks and seize opportunities. He liked to sacrifice himself to win. This fighting style seemed to be quite simple as long as one was fierce and courageous enough. But after careful analysis, one could taste the martial arts level involved in it. In a fight between masters, it was not always possible to sacrifice oneself to win. There would not be a situation where one would fearlessly attack the enemy's vital points when he was about to be hit and rely on the referee to stop the fight to win, because there was no such opportunity. In such a situation, the underdog would have no time to attack the enemy's vital points. If he forced himself to attack, he would be heavily injured in advance, making the counterattack weak and even abruptly stopped. Just like in the battle between Lu Qing and Dong Yi, when faced with the Dark Thunder Palm, Lu Qing did use a side kick to force his opponent to give up the killing move. However, the key point was not the side kick. Because of his preemptive reaction, Dong Yi would have cursed him for being an idiot and then calmly stabbed him in the waist. It would have been so painful that Lu Qing couldn't use his strength and kick out his leg. If this was not enough, Dong Yi's hand was already on Lu Qing's waist and pressed down and blocked. Who could complete the side kick? Therefore, using the method of attacking the enemy's vital points to win the enemy's compromise not only relied on courage, guts and ruthlessness, but also on vision, insight, judgment and the martial arts level to seize the opportunity. Without the latter, only the former would be underage gangsters. If they competed with courage and ruthlessness, they were definitely strong enough, but could they win against a professional master? They would probably be beaten so badly that even their mothers would not recognize them after one round. With an accurate judgment, a perfect grasp of timing, and a martial prowess that was sufficient to support the completion of one's thoughts, in addition to one's courage and determination, one would be able to exchange injuries for death by attacking one's vital points, forcing the other party to have no choice but to first protect themselves. Even if the opponent was a lunatic and did not change, the referee would still intervene and easily determine the final victor. That was because in a situation where there was no referee, it was clear who was injured and who was killed. The one who survived would definitely be considered the winner. Dong Yi's last poke at Lu Qing was a perfect combination of vision, judgment, timing and courage. Of course, it was also because Lu Qing didn't expect Dong Yi to have such a crazy idea. Once he was mentally prepared and knew Dong Yi's style with his mercurial balance, there was a good chance that he could hurt Dong Yi and dodge the attack at the same time. If there was a desperate fight where both sides were injured, the referee would usually not intervene if it did not result in death or disability. However, if the opportunity was equal and both sides were likely to die together or be disabled, the referee would decide to call it a draw after stopping the fight. This was not unprecedented. Of course, there was bound to be some wrangling. For example, if someone said, "I've just mastered the iron crotch technique, so I'm not afraid of being kicked in the groin," or, "I've just reached the invincible Vajra realm, so it doesn't matter if my vital points are attacked," then the referee would ask for a demonstration and change the decision according to the facts. In this, the referee was very important, but they were not omnipotent. There would be times when they could not stop it, and death and injury were inevitable. There were similar cases every year, but the relative probability was not high, even lower than car accidents. Even so, the official competition would also buy corresponding personal insurance for all the participants. Every life and every disability would be investigated by the police department to confirm that there was no collusion or intentional negligence. If there was, it would be considered murder. As for the competition between the physical and vulnerability experts, the referee could not intervene. If the strength was not enough, he would not even dare to stay in the arena. Anyway, it was easy to injure experts of this level but difficult to kill or cripple them, so there was no need to worry too much about them. All in all, Qiu Yang had not only relied on his viciousness and courage to survive until now, but also his martial arts level and judgment. He was the best of the best. Whoever looked down on him because of his nickname and fighting style would definitely end up in a miserable state. Moreover, Lu Qing noticed something. According to the data, Qiu Yang had several experiences of forfeiting. When facing an enemy 1 or 2 levels higher than him, he would always forfeit without exception. In other words, he was very clear-headed and knew that if he encountered a strong enemy with the Mad Dog style, it was very likely that he would be seriously injured, and nothing could be exchanged for it. He was a very rational mad dog. While Lu Qing was thinking, Qiu Yang had already stood in position and set up his stance. The referee raised his right hand and announced the start of the match. As if he had received the order to start running, Qiu Yang sprang up and rushed to Lu Qing like an arrow. His eyes were crazy and his momentum was overwhelming, as if he wanted to raise everything in front of him to the ground and tear it into pieces. Lu Qing had come up with a strategy for this battle, which was to rely on his mercurial balance to fight for a long time. This was because similar crazy fighting style without any regard for one's own safety was a little bit like Qing Yaojin's 3 axes. Once they were dragged for a long time, their spirit would be dulled and their madness would be reduced. They would be on the verge of failure. Qiu Yang's previous battle videos could fully prove this point. However, facing the enemy's advance, Lu Qing did not immediately use the mercurial balance to dodge. He felt that under such momentum, once he flinched and dodged, it was very likely that he would subconsciously become timid, which would gradually reduce his morale. Then he would be chased by Qiu Yang like a defeated army. Therefore, even if he wanted to fight with the Mad Dog, he had to fight with the enemy for a while to reduce his momentum. Lu Qing's eyes reflected Qiu Yang's figure. When Qiu Yang was about to approach him, he suddenly twisted his waist, tightened his thighs and kicked his knee. This was a well-behaved move, which was also a good choice in the situation where it was difficult to use the right hand. But Qiu Yang, as his nickname, did not use his leg to block the kick, nor did he hastily change his direction. Instead, he jumped up in a way that violated the taboo of fighting at this level. Like a ferocious eagle, he leaped over the kick and extended his right hand, preparing to hit Lu Qing's temple from the side. At the same time, he bent his body and positioned his legs, waiting for a series of stomps on Lu Qing's chest. Attacking from the top and the bottom, it was hard to defend. Ruthless and crazy. If Lu Qing could use his right hand, he would have a lot of choices at this time, such as using his arm to block the kick, or using his elbow to protect his face. Then he would learn from Lin Kei's continuous attacks and shake Qiu Yang away, and seize the opportunity to attack. But now he could only use one hand, and his right leg had not been withdrawn in time. He could only protect his head but not his chest. At the critical moment, Lu Qing suddenly leaned back, rolled to the left and kicked out his right leg again, making it like a tight whip, fiercely lashing at Qiu Yang, who could not change his direction in midair. Iron Bridge Dragon turning over. After this fall and kick, Lu Qing not only avoided the attack on his temple and chest, but also completed the counterattack. With his left hand on the ground, his whip leg exploded the air fiercely and terrifyingly. Qiu Yang had to squirm his spine and kick out his legs to avoid this dangerous attack. Bang! Lu Qing took advantage of the momentum and stood up again, while Qiu Yang fell a few steps away. As soon as he touched the ground, he straightened his knees and threw himself at Lu Qing again without any hesitation. His momentum was extremely crazy. Facing this, Lu Qing saw that the position was suitable, so he shook his left arm and shot out like a big gun to Qiu Yang's face. Qiu Yang's spine squirmed like a dragon trying to break free from its shackles. He slid to the right and came behind Lu Qing. Then he clenched his right hand into a fist and hit the spine, fast and hard. During this process, he stood in a very clever place, closer to Lu Qing's right side, taking advantage of the fact that Lu Qing's right hand was injured and could not fight back. At this moment, Lu Qing swung his center of gravity and bounced to the left, which made him move quickly and avoid Qiu Yang's dragon-catching punch. After the Iron Plank Bridge Dragon Ascension, he adjusted his body muscles so that he was in the state of mercurial balance. He was not careless about Qiu Yang's punch. He did not try to twist his waist and pull his leg because he was afraid that Qiu Yang would lower himself and roll under him. Then he would perform the shoulder kick or monkey steals the peach. It was risky for an attacker, but Qiu Yang would do it according to his style. Seeing that Lu Qing moved away, Qiu Yang stepped on the ground and made an explosion in the depth of the arena. Then he continued to attack crazily. As if there was a ball in his body, Lu Qing turned again, but he did not escape. Instead, he swung his left arm for a short fight with abrupt force. As soon as Qiu Yang approached, he visualized the mouth of a poisonous snake in his mind. He clenched his right hand and fought back without dodging. Poisonous punch? Biting force. Bang. With a strong and crisp sound, Lu Qing's fist spewed out flames and collided with Qiu Yang's right hand. Both of them took a light breath and withdrew their hands at the same time. One of them felt like he was bitten by a sharp tooth, the other felt like he was burned by a flame. Both of them were mentally prepared and finished their follow-up actions calmly, leaving no chance for the opponent to take advantage of. Seeing this, Geezer Shi and Yan Zhiko were puzzled. They did not understand why Lu Qing used the power of blaze, which could not affect the opponent temporarily. Could it be that he wants to take this opportunity to temper and improve his supernatural ability? Geezer Shi pondered. Lu Qing's idea was similar to his guess. Although his spirit had recovered a little, the mercurial balance required extreme concentration and could not be maintained for long. Therefore he had to plan early. He planned to use the power of blaze frequently to gradually squeeze the Jindan and try the second awakening. He wanted to try actively. After refining his bone marrow and 5 viscera bit by bit with Thunder Roar Zen, his physical quality improved rapidly. The cultivation during the winter vacation was not in vain. He thought that he could barely bear the initial backfire. He planned to try the Thunder Roar Zen in 2 or 3 weeks when he reached the entry level. Now that he was a little ahead of schedule, it should not be a big problem. However, ideals were just ideals most of the time. After a while of guerrilla fighting with mercurial balance, he tragically found that he had no chance to use abrupt force or release flames because the opponent would not cooperate with him. If he tried it rashly, he would be defeated before he could squeeze the Jindan. The bitterness in his heart couldn't be felt by outsiders, but both Qiu Yang and the audience in the stands were getting more and more desperate. They couldn't see any sign of weakness from Lu Qing, and they couldn't see any possibility of his physical strength declining. It seemed that he could continue to rely on his mercurial balance and wouldn't give up until Qiu Yang was exhausted to death. Qiu Yang narrowed his eyes and seized the opportunity when they were close to each other. In his mind he visualized a poisonous snake that shot lightning and bit people. His body trembled and his spine bent into a bow shape. Then he suddenly bounced up and pushed himself to the front of Lu Qing at a speed beyond the body-refining state. He clenched his right fist and threw out the poisonous bite. Lu Qing had a deep impression of this killer move when he watched the video. He did not dodge blindly because the subsequent chain of kicks would be more terrible. He shook his left shoulder and bounced up his arm to block the punch. At the same time he steadied his center of gravity and was ready to twist his waist and swing his leg to block the next killer move. Bang! Lu Qing suddenly realized that they were too close to each other. Qiu Yang's left hand was injured, so he couldn't punch out, leaving a huge opening for Lu Qing to attack. His right arm was seriously affected by the injury, but it did not mean that he could not use it at all. Enduring the pain and the consequences of aggravating the injury, he could still throw a punch or two. Lu Qing did not hesitate to tighten his right arm and endure the pain. Then he threw a seabed forward punch at Qiu Yang's lower abdomen. At the same time, Qiu Yang's crazy eyes locked on Lu Qing's lower abdomen. I have not used my left hand because I was waiting for this opportunity. It can't use its full strength, but it can still help me win at the critical moment. My previous patience should have completely paralyzed you. Bang! He threw a crushing punch at Lu Qing's lower abdomen. They threw out their punches quickly. Because of the difference in height and body shape, even though they were on the same side, they did not directly hit each other. Instead, they ran to the target by brushing against each other's fists. Bang! Bang! The referee reached out to block their fists. He gasped and said, "Draw, draw?" Qiu Yang felt that this was the most inexplicable match he had ever fought. How could the well-prepared trap end in a draw? Lu Qing was as confused as Qiu Yang. He vaguely felt that he and Qiu Yang had made the same choice at that moment. Fortunately, I still have the desire to win, and I was brave and determined enough to not hesitate at that time. This is also good. A draw means that both of us left the stage. I still have someone behind me, but Fearless Squad has no one. In other words, we won. We won. Chapter 138. The referee took 2 deep breaths, withdrew his hand and asked, "Do you have any questions?" Qiu Yang had recovered from his confusion. Looking at his and Lu Cheng's still clenched fists and stiff postures, he had a rough idea of what had happened just now. When he jumped out of the trap, his opponent seized the opportunity. He was very sullen, very depressed, and very much wanted to vent, very much wanted to roar, but the main source of the matter was still his own mistake. He was complacent in the well-designed trap, but neglected that the other side could also be paralyzed by his right hand just like him. He couldn't find anyone to blame and there was no reason to quibble. He wanted to beat the referee, but he knew the gap between them was too big. He couldn't beat the referee, so he could only hold back his anger and said, "I have no problem." Lu Cheng also figured out what was going on. He sighed inwardly that his thinking was really starting to become sluggish and he didn't react in time. He held back his laughter and said, "I also have no problem." Of course he had no problem. If he continued to fight, his brain would become numb and his reaction would be slow. It was perfect to fight to a draw and win the final victory. One must know one's limits. While speaking, he secretly imagined that he had won because he had the Jindan hidden in his lower abdomen. If he was hit by the crushing punch, it might react and save him from injury. However, this was just a fantasy. Who knew if the reaction of the Jindan would directly burn and freeze him, just like the dead black carp? Compared to the emotional outburst and ecstasy when he defeated Wei Xingtian, Lu Cheng's joy was very mild, because he couldn't be excited even if he wanted to. His body hadn't reached its limit, but his spirit was exhausted. Like a martial artist who had gone through a marathon hard battle, how could he have the strength and passion to crazily celebrate the victory? He just needed to quietly enjoy it. This was truly a long, arduous, and tragic match. The audience in the stands also did not immediately react to what had happened. They did not understand why it was a tie all of a sudden. Some of them were blocked by the referee who was very close to the scene of the incident. Some of them did not see clearly because the two sides were too close and the punch was too fast. When the big screens hanging in different parts of the martial arts arena began to replay the scene in slow motion again and again from various angles, they realized that both sides had chosen to activate their injured arms at the same time to seize the opponent's flaw and create a situation where both sides were injured. A punch to the lower abdomen did not necessarily result in death, nor did it necessarily result in disability. In fact, martial artists could shrink their abdomen in time to avoid the most severe injuries, but after being hit, they would collapse on the spot and curl up on the ground. There was no problem with the referee stopping the fight in time. However, a draw would mean that their own team had lost the match. They had lost a match that they had originally thought to be in the bag. The audience fell into silence once again. It was an extremely oppressive silence. They felt that all their enthusiasm and expectations had gone down the drain. All their longing for release and ecstasy had been eaten by dogs. Disappointment, anger, and unwillingness quickly brewed in his heart. Lu Cheng enjoyed the silence and felt that it was no less than the cheers of the home audience. Then he heard the referee announce loudly, "A tie. Fighters from both sides leave the arena." He exhaled and glanced at Qiu Yang, who had restrained his madness and unwillingness. He saluted with his hands folded, turned around easily and walked out of the arena. This guy was too smart for his own good. He would probably regret it for a long time. Just thinking of this made him feel King good. You guys are so shameless to be this substitutes. Alas, after all, I'm not a saint. I will be angry at the enemy's provocation. I will bear a grudge against the abuse that insults my family and the girl I love. I can't help but fight back. I will want to vent my inner feelings. I will also gloat at the enemy's self-righteousness. I am such a person with many shortcomings. I am not tolerant enough and broad-minded enough. Well, after reviewing, I will continue to feel good secretly. Ah, this is really good. Qiu Yang's left arm hung down and his right fist clenched tightly. He took 2 deep breaths to prevent himself from going crazy on the spot. He gritted his teeth and walked down the stairs. He felt ashamed to face his parents and couldn't lift his head for a moment. The referee warmed up his old arms and legs and waved to the Songqing University Martial Arts Club. He said loudly, "The third fighter." Sun Jian was still immersed in the surprise of a tie and the joy of winning the match. At this moment he was a little confused. After a few seconds, he suddenly came to himself and pointed to himself, saying loudly, "Do I still need to fight?" "Well, the rules are set," the referee replied. Sun Jian stood up from his seat and walked down the stairs to meet Lu Cheng, who was coming back. Seeing that they were about to meet, he raised his right hand and tried to high-five Lu Cheng to celebrate. Lu Cheng wanted to respond, but when he moved his right arm, he felt a sharp pain and had to give up. His left hand was not in the right position, so it was very awkward to high-five. so he could only look at Sun Jian with a bitter smile. Sun Jian suddenly realized. He quickly clenched his right hand into a fist and gave a thumbs up. Awesome. I'm sincerely convinced by you. You sound like you were not convinced before? Lu Qing criticized in his heart. He nodded with a smile and joked, so this counts as fighting, right? Sun Jian suddenly fell into deep confusion. Does this count as fighting or not? When Lu Qing returned to the seats of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Yanjika had already stood up and greeted him. She asked happily and worriedly, "Are you okay? How's your injury?" "It was okay at the beginning, but now it seems to be a little worse," Lu Qing answered honestly. At the same time he saw Li Mao, Guqin, and Li Xiaowen applauding and giving him thumbs up. Even Lin Ke nodded his head slightly. Yanjika glanced at him. Her eyes were bright and full of emotions. "Who asked you to be brave?" She stretched out her hands and checked Lu Qing's injury through his clothes. Lu Qing grimaced in pain and said in a low voice, "If I don't act brave, I'll lose. I'm almost exhausted. If Qiu Yang makes a killing move again, I won't be able to block it." Yanjika opened her clear eyes and asked curiously, "Is this the limit of your physical strength?" "The limit of my energy. I can still fight with my physical strength." Lu Qing smiled and said, "Actually, Dong Yi and Qiu Yang both lost because they didn't know me well. If Dong Yi could hold on for one more round, I wouldn't be able to suppress him. He didn't need to exchange a big injury for a small one. As for Qiu Yang, he was too impatient. If he fought with me for one more minute, I wouldn't be able to hold on." Unfortunately, both of them realized that they couldn't wait for my limit, so they took a more radical approach. There was a certain difference between the two fights. Dong Yi might not be able to hold on for one round of brutal blizzard. The winner was still unknown. Qiu Yang, on the other hand, would definitely lose as long as he was patient and didn't rush to attack. Yanjika smiled and said, "The advantage of asymmetrical information is also an advantage. Anyway, you haven't shown your limit yet. You can use this to influence your opponent in the future." Then she breathed a sigh of relief and said, "You don't have a big injury on your bones. I'll have to ask Coach Sure about it." Geezer Sure smiled and said, "Are you done whispering sweet nothings to each other? You finally remember this old man?" Yanjika suddenly blushed and turned her head to the side. She bit her lower lip with her white and neat teeth. Lu Qing could only laugh awkwardly and didn't know what to say. Geezer Sure was satisfied with his own humor. He looked at Lu Qing and said, "Your fascia and muscles are injured. I guess you need to rest for a while. Let's go back to the locker room and do a detailed examination." Coach, you can see that." Lu Qing was shocked. "Is this X-ray vision?" Geezer Sure said unhappily, "Haven't you heard of the enemy freezing heart move? You moved your right arm within 5 meters of me and affected the muscles and fascia there. If I didn't feel it, I would have wasted my years of martial arts training." "Oh, so it's the upgraded application of the ice mirror?" Lu Qing suddenly realized. He was more and more afraid of the ability of a high-ranked fighter. At this time, Geezer Sure reached out and quickly patted Lu Qing's wound. Yanjika and Lu Qing were scared, but they didn't have time to stop him. With a cold feeling, Lu Qing felt the pain in his wound was relieved a lot. Although it was still difficult for him to use force, at least he felt more normal. "Thank you, Coach." Lu Qing resisted the urge to call him teacher. Yanjika woke up and said angrily, "Coach Sure, why didn't you say hello first?" Scared to death. At this time, Sun Jian stood beside the referee and looked at him. He raised his right hand and said, "The final round, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins." Sun Jian was confused and sluggish. He couldn't help but think, "I'm just going on stage to put on a show." The announcement of the result of the match suddenly woke up all the spectators from their silence. Some were cheering loudly for their own team members, some were screaming because of extreme disappointment, and some were angry and kept cursing their own team members and the Songqing University Martial Arts Club members. The scene became chaotic and a little hysterical. Not everyone could accept failure so generously. Seeing this, the staff immediately rushed to the seats of the Songqing University Martial Arts Club and said anxiously, "Hurry up and go back to the locker room. 5 minutes, only 5 minutes. Get changed and leave immediately before they leave the stadium." Lu Qing and the others were planning to celebrate this hard-won victory in the locker room. Hearing this, they were all shocked and didn't say anything. After Sun Jian left, they immediately returned to the locker room, took a shower, changed into their normal clothes and left through the side door with the staff. They boarded the bus that had been waiting for them. They didn't breathe a sigh of relief until the bus was far away from the stadium. Such an away game was horrible. Even in such a terrifying away game, the entire stadium was silenced by their own team. While feeling happy, Sun Jian smiled bitterly and said, "It's a pity that I didn't have a real fight." Geezer Shi had just finished checking Lu Cheng's wound. He laughed and said, "There will be plenty of chances later. These two rascals won't recover in a short time." Lin Ke forced himself to use the yin-yang twist, so his joints are injured and his body is shaken. Not to mention the competition, he can't even practice in the next week. It will take at least 3 weeks for him to fully recover. As for Lu Cheng, well, he could have recovered in a few days, but he forced himself to punch and aggravated his injury. It will take about 2 weeks for him to return to normal. The next match is our home ground. Our opponent is not strong. Sun Jian, Li Mao and Lin Hua are the main force. Yan Zhika and Guqing are the substitutes. P.S. I have something to do in the afternoon. The match in the evening is at 11 p.m. Chapter 139. As soon as Geezer Shi made the announcement, Lu Qing felt Yan Zhika sitting up straight beside him. Her eyes were shining. She seemed a little excited and a little nervous. In case anyone felt unwell, she would be able to enter the arena. Seeing this, Lu Qing said half jokingly and half confusedly, Coach Shi, I'm only injured in my right arm. I can still fight. It's not a problem for me to bully amateur fighters. If I meet a professional ninth pin fighter, I can also hold my own." He had focused all his attention on Fearless Squad and didn't pay attention to the opponents in the next 2 rounds. He thought that no matter how weak they were, they couldn't be that weak. They should at least be a team of amateur first pin. Otherwise, wouldn't they be asking for humiliation in the preliminaries? Geezer Shi chuckled and said, "The opponents in the last 2 rounds are relatively weak, which is perfect for Sun Jian and Li Mao to practice. Even if they lose, it doesn't matter. We are here to increase our actual combat experience, not to advance. You have to give others a chance to grow, right? Besides, with your character and thirst for victory, when you really enter the arena, will you be able to resist not using your right hand at the crucial moment?" Lu Qing felt a little guilty and could only laugh dryly. Geezer Shi continued, saying earnestly, "And after 2 weeks of 5 high-level actual combat, you also need some time to digest and avoid becoming impetuous. Another very important reason is that your martial arts style has not yet been finalized. Every intense battle will have a great impact on you, causing you to develop certain fighting habits. For a martial artist, not having a habit is the best habit. This requires you to accumulate a lot of experience in a short period of time before calming down and leaving the battle for a period of time. Then you will examine yourself from a different perspective, analyze your problems and overcome your habits." He used the word calm twice. Lu Qing felt that it was reasonable. He felt that a fighter with a good teacher would take less detours in the process of growth. These words made Yan Zhika and the others ponder. They connected with themselves and understood. It was not good to leave in a hurry. Seeing that everyone was thinking about his teachings, Geezer Shi smiled proudly. "Brat, today I will let you know what it means to be old and experienced. If I let you enter the arena, it is not impossible to advance in the group. When the time comes and you really fight for a place in the division and enter the second stage of the preliminaries in the second half of the year, what will you do? Aren't you slapping this old man's face?" The carriage was quiet for a while. Seeing that they were getting closer and closer to Yimo Transit Station, everyone began to reminisce about the competition just now as well as the hard-won harvest. "We had to sacrifice 2 of our main forces in order to barely snatch victory from Yimo. It was truly bitter and difficult." Li Mao could not help but sigh. Guqing nodded in agreement. "Isn't that so? Lin Ke and Cheng were both very capable. They had managed to do the impossible. It's just that in the end it felt like we were running away." "You can't say that." Sun Jian immediately retorted and posed as if he was singing an opera. "This is called playing the hero in Changban Slope, going in and out of 1,000,000 soldiers 7 times, and then retreating calmly after killing them all." His words immediately caused the crowd to burst into laughter. The atmosphere was joyous, filled with the joy of victory. In the live broadcast room of the TV station, the local host's face was ashen. He could not hide his depression and disappointment. He could only smile stiffly and say, "Xiao Wei, can you give us an analysis of the final tie?" Xiao Wei said excitedly, "This is my battle to establish my name. Didn't some people say that I'm a toxic healer? Look, didn't Fearless Squad also lose today? I predicted in advance that they would lose 99% of the time. That's why we shouldn't be superstitious. If you spread rumors again, be careful not to be struck by lightning. Alright, back to the topic. Let's look at the last part in slow motion. Were both sides synchronized? They both disregarded the consequences and used their injured hand, resulting in a lose-lose situation. However, I have to say that there is a difference between their seemingly identical actions. Qiu Yang actively created an opportunity to use his left hand, while Lu Qing passively reacted. In other words, Qiu Yang had carefully designed a trap with his injured arm from the beginning, waiting for Lu Qing to step into it. But, because he was too confident and proud of this, he neglected the possibility of his opponent risking his life. He failed to see Mao Tai and went for wool and came home shorn. When we were first challenged by the Songqing University Martial Arts Club, I bet that the fearless squad definitely looked down on them. They must have thought that since we have a professional 8th pin in the Dan stage and 2 professional 9th pin masters, why would we be afraid of a bunch of immature kids? It's not a big deal to lose to Qiu Yang. In the end, everyone saw that even with Qiu Yang, they still lost to Songqing University Martial Arts Club and lost face. Of course, this can't be entirely their fault. Who would have thought that Songqing University's Lu Cheng's stamina would be so abnormal? With him, it's equivalent to having 2, 3, 4, 5 professional 9th pin masters or maybe even more. Anyway, I can't see where his limit is. This makes the Songqing University Martial Arts Club equivalent to a weakened version of the Azure Dragon Squad, a strong contender for the qualification to advance in this group. Defeating the fearless squad, who had underestimated their opponent and had engaged in a fight in advance, isn't too inconceivable. He Xiaowei was enjoying himself when he suddenly realized that the host beside him was looking at him strangely. The director, cameraman, and lighting technician in front of him were also looking at him strangely. They all looked like they wanted to slap and kick him. This is Yimo TV station's building. Almost everyone here supports Fearless Squad. The people here are tough, even a random passerby might have an amateur level. F***CK. Even if I'm also a 13 Grand Guardian's brute training, I probably won't be able to walk out of this building if this continues. A wise man submits to circumstances. He smiled shyly and forcibly turned his inclination back. For Fearless Squad, this isn't the end of the world. It's better to suffer a setback early than later. It's better to suffer a setback in the group stage than in the knockout round. As long as they can learn their lesson and stop underestimating their opponent, with their strength and foundation, they're still a popular team to advance in this division. After saying all this in one breath, He Xiaowei saw the director and host nodding slightly and softening their gazes. He Xiaowei quietly heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, I'm quick-witted and battle-hardened. The gamblers in front of the TV were already paralyzed on the spot, muttering things like rooftop and County Hotel to themselves. In Lu Cheng's private forum, fans had already gone crazy. They excitedly started forum chatting and no longer looked for posts to reply. Ha, I just need to maintain a smiling expression. The moderator, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling took the lead. Nye Chichi followed closely behind. Listen to my Barba-like laughter and you'll know how excited I am. Defeating the strong with the weak and creating miracles, that's how exciting it is. Brahmin was even more delighted with her words. Who asked you to be shameless? Who asked you to look down on my idol? Who asked you to call him Mad Dog? You should have called him Husky instead. I can't believe he won. It's only been a month and my idol can already defeat 3 opponents at once. In the crazy atmosphere, Unparalleled Dragon King tried to maintain his rationality and seriously analyzed, it's not that Lu Qing can defeat all the professional 9th pin fighters. Although his fighting talent is really good, he's good at judging, seizing opportunities and is often quick-witted, but the most fundamental reason is that he's in the stage of rapid improvement. Also, he's a martial arts newcomer and hasn't been fixed in all aspects. Almost every competition has new things and new changes, which makes people unable to predict in advance through previous videos. Plus, with his extremely abnormal physical strength, he can really make those experienced masters feel overwhelmed. Because it was a forum chat, he divided such a long paragraph into several posts, so that it could be displayed in the title. We don't want to listen to the analysis today, we just want to celebrate. Drive. Those who wanted to drive just now, come out. Yan Shaoling shouted. Okamoto's fan laughed. Drive right away. Underage girls, stay away. You'd better continue to be soft and cute. Humph, in this online world full of old drivers who can always be soft and cute. Now is the time to celebrate Lu Cheng defeating a strong opponent. Why don't we tear off our masks and face it naked? No, face it frankly. Yan Shaoling replied with a spirit of self-deprecating. Okay, I'll post it right away. Okamoto's fan immediately agreed. After a short while he posted a post. The old driver is driving, the beautiful young woman and her harem. Beep, Sawadika. My Buddhist name is Luan Lai, snatched the sofa. Hey, student card. Yan Shaoling also appeared here. After swiping the card to reply, Unparalleled Dragon King appeared. Go to hell. It's the first episode of the Calabash Brothers. Yan Shaoling followed up and replied, Go away. You're not a real driver. After a long time, in the aftertaste of the celebration, Brahmin found Yan Shaoling. Little Nightfall, I think we need to be careful of some people from Yimo. They look so excited. In the past, fans of Longhu Club and Shangqing sect often bombarded each other's forums. Yan Shaoling replied calmly. If they want it, then so be it. There aren't many people in our forum anyway. It's not a big problem to be affected for a day or two. When the time comes, we can just find a software to delete them in batches. Thinking about it is one thing, but I'm still angry. When our Lu Qing improves little by little and has more and more fans, let's see who dares to bully our forum. Even if they want to be bombarded, they have to consider the price they have to bear. In the home team locker room of Yimo Martial Arts Stadium, the atmosphere was so oppressive that it was terrifying. No one dared to speak for fear of provoking Mad Dog. Qiu Yang's expression was gloomy, no longer as fresh and clean as usual. His eyes were filled with dangerous irritability, as if he couldn't wait to find someone to fight to vent his anger. Wei Xingtian sat quietly on the bench, like a volcano that was about to erupt. After a few minutes, Wei Xingtian suddenly stood up and sighed. The reason for today's failure is because I underestimated the enemy. I underestimated Songqing University's Lu Cheng and Lin Quebec. It would have been better to arrange for old Dong to take the lead. Go out, appease the audience and accept the interview. If a defeat can defeat us, then what is the point of practicing martial arts and participating in the preliminaries? We should just go home and sell sweet potatoes. Old Dong is treating his injury in the emergency room. Don't let him down. After finishing his words, he strode to the locker room door, facing failure head-on. Qiu Yang exhaled and followed him. The reason why he was convinced by Wei Xingtian wasn't because he was better than him, but because he was arrogant and unruly, but he didn't lack any of the responsibilities he should have. In the cafeteria of Songqing University, Lu Qing put down the ointment bandages and the tray he was carrying, looked at his right arm that was bulging because of the bandage and joked to Yan Zhika. I'm always a little worried. I always feel that the school hospital is a bunch of veterinarians. Yan Zhika sat opposite him, supported her cheek with one hand and couldn't help but laugh. Aren't you scolding yourself? That's true. Lu Qing held the chopsticks in his left hand, picked up the chicken in front of him, put it into his mouth and showed off. Although my right hand can't do delicate work for now, my left hand is not bad. With his fine control of the muscles in his body, he could barely maintain his daily life with his left hand. Yan Zhika didn't change her posture, rolled her eyes and smiled. I also said that if your left hand is not convenient, I will reluctantly help you pick up some food and feed you. Since you are so good. Lu Qing suddenly had the impulse to bang his head against the wall. Why am I so stupid? He glanced at the plate, deliberately used the chopsticks to pick up the peanuts in the Kung Pao chicken. Pack, he didn't hold it firmly and dropped it. Pack, he didn't catch it again. You see, I can only pick up something that is easy to pick up. He looked at Yan Zhika eagerly. Yan Zhika rolled her cute eyes, looked at the ceiling of the cafeteria, held back her laughter and said ruthlessly, Then eat the part that is easy to pick up or I can give you a spoon? Lu Qing was speechless for a moment. Seeing him like this, Yan Zhika's dimples appeared. She picked up a peanut and put it to his mouth, not daring to look at him, only looking at the two chopsticks. Lu Qing was delighted, opened his mouth and took a bite. After chewing carefully and swallowing, he praised, It's 100 times more delicious than usual. This is the taste of sweetness. Too exaggerated. Yan Zhika scolded with a smile and then sighed with a slight blush. When I used to check Weibo and forums, every time I saw someone saying that the most tired couple was feeding each other in the cafeteria, I would like it. I never thought that I would have such a day. Chapter 140. Hearing Yan Zhika's exclamation, Lu Qing felt sweet and happy. He smiled and said, You are not feeding a lovey-dovey couple but caring for a disabled person. While speaking he moved his right shoulder slightly. Yenjika was amused by Lu Cheng. "You're so good at making fun of yourself." "Making fun of myself every day makes life sunny and beautiful," Lu Cheng said humorously. As the days of dating increased, he felt that he could express himself more and more in front of girls. He was no longer so nervous and could often be humorous and witty. Yenjika covered her mouth with her left hand, smiled and said in a low voice, "Then I'll give you some sunshine." She reached out her chopsticks, broke a braised meatball and put a small part of it in front of Lu Cheng's mouth. This time she didn't avoid his eyes. Her eyes were clear and her smile was shallow, like a pool of water that could drown people. Lu Cheng almost couldn't move his eyes away. He put the small part of the braised meatball into his mouth and stuffed it full. He didn't know if it was a psychological effect, but he really felt it was more delicious than usual. Looking at his wriggling cheeks, Yenjika supported her cheek with her left hand and smiled. She seemed to find it more interesting than eating. After finishing the meatball, Lu Cheng said in a low voice with a thick face, "I feel your sunshine shining into my heart." Yenjika laughed and turned her head. She said with a slight blush, "You are so mushy. Are all boys so mushy after falling in love?" "I don't know about that. It's my first time falling in love. I've never seen how other people fall in love." Lu Cheng answered with a smile, "You should eat too. Don't just care about the disabled." Although it was sweet and memorable to be fed by a girl, it would be a great sin if she was hungry because of it. Yenjika was amused again. Her voice was soft and soft. Then she picked up a piece of cola chicken wing and nibbled it slowly. Lu Cheng felt that time flew by while feeding, eating and chatting. It seemed that in the blink of an eye, the dishes on the table and several bowls of rice were all gone. At this time he thought of something and said deliberately, "Coach Yen, you may have a chance to play next week." Yenjika was stunned at first, but then she laughed and joked, "Wow, you're cursing senior brother Sun Jian and the others to get hurt. Do I look like that kind of person?" Lu Cheng asked back with an aggrieved expression. "Yes you do." Yenjika answered affirmatively. Then she laughed like a beautiful flower. Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh. After the girl calmed down, he said seriously, "Actually, I'm more worried about Senior Li Mao. I don't know if he can overcome his nervousness this time. If the situation worsens, he might not be able to handle it and withdraw before the name list is submitted." "You're right." Yenjika thought of what had happened last semester. "I wonder if Senior Li Mao can get some counseling." Lu Cheng thought for a while and said, "I think that if I let him go at this time he will only doubt himself more and feel more pressure. Besides, a week of tutoring won't do much good. The main thing is whether he can get out of it on his own." "Yes, coach sure should have a plan. He knows it." All of a sudden she exclaimed in a low voice, "In that case I might really be on the stage. What should I do? What should I do? I'm suddenly a little nervous." Lu Cheng laughed and said, "It's normal to be nervous. It can actually help you perform better." Speaking of this, he revealed his true intention. "How about we continue the actual combat training tomorrow afternoon?" Yenjika said worriedly, "You're injured." "Just one arm. It's more than enough to be a sparring partner." Lu Cheng patted his chest exaggeratedly with his left hand. "Do you think I can't help using my right hand when I'm sparring with you?" "Who knows?" Yenjika deliberately dragged her voice. After a moment of silence she said, "Well, you have to be careful." Yes. Lu Cheng beamed. "After the special training tomorrow, you go back to the dormitory and take a nap. I'll find you at 3 o'clock and we'll go to the martial arts arena to train for an hour. Alright, I heard that the movie The Amazing Wizard is pretty good. Why don't we go to the city center and find a place to watch it? After 6 or 7 o'clock, we can go eat the stonefish that I mentioned before. It's very good." This was the arrangement he had planned for a long time. If he lost to Fearless Squad, he would invite Yenjika to watch a movie and eat stonefish in the name of relaxing. If he accidentally completed his small goal, of course he would use the excuse of celebrating. All in all, they were all excuses to ask Yenjika out. Yenjika smiled and said, "What a coincidence. My roommate said that we would go to watch The Amazing Wizard together for a group activity tomorrow night." Lu Cheng felt like he was hit in the head. His brain was spinning quickly, thinking of how to bewitch the girl. At this time Yenjika snorted and looked to the side. "Since you're a disabled person, I can only reluctantly let them down." "Good. Coach Yen is so beautiful and kind." Lu Cheng was overjoyed and complimented. This date didn't need to be checked out. They were all checked out last time. After complimenting, he asked casually, "The relationship between you roommates seems to be pretty good." "Yeah, there are good and bad dormitories everywhere. Like you guys, it should be the same, right? Yanjika asked curiously. Lu Qing nodded and said, my 2 roommates in the small dormitory are not too fussy. Their personal habits are okay and they get along well. Our big dormitory next door has 2 weirdos. One of them would video chat with someone every day when he's free, regardless of whether his roommate is resting or not. The other has bad hygiene habits. His clothes are soaked in water and he doesn't wash them. Therefore they often have conflicts. Yanjika smiled and said, the girls' dormitory is almost the same. But maybe girls are more attentive to details and care about more things. I leave early and come back late. Except for sleeping, I don't spend much time in the dormitory. So I have a good relationship with them. They talked about this topic for a while. Yanjika knew that Lu Qing was still tired, so she urged him to go back to the dormitory to rest. She planned to finish the homework she had accumulated last week. At this time the sky was dark and the lights were on. Lu Qing walked Yanjika to the door of the 3rd building and chatted with her for a while. Then he saw her walking to the door of the dormitory. She suddenly turned around and said with a smile in the light, Qing, you're awesome today. Yanjika finished her cute and encouraging pose and hurriedly turned around and ran into the corridor of the building. Lu Qing was in a daze. After a long time he came to his senses and couldn't help but smile. She was saying that I did a great job defeating the strong enemy this afternoon. In the corridor, Yanjika reached out her hands that were warmed by Lu Qing and put them on her cheeks. She felt the heat of embarrassment and happiness and scolded herself, why did I say it out loud? It's so embarrassing. Thinking of this, she suddenly realized something. She used the chopsticks that she had fed Lu Qing before to eat again. Does this count as an indirect kiss? Yanjika stopped at the corner of the corridor unconsciously. Her eyes were full of anger and embarrassment. Lu Qing walked briskly to his own dormitory, recalling every detail of his interaction with Yanjika along the way. Suddenly, he said to himself happily, it seems that she didn't change her chopsticks. She used the chopsticks that she fed me to eat again. This is an indirect kiss. Thinking of this, Lu Qing suddenly felt that the food before was 100 times sweeter, no, 1,000 times sweeter. Well, isn't this idea too wretched? Lu Qing tried to be serious but he couldn't help thinking about it. Yanjika returned to the dormitory and saw that her roommates were all there. She took a deep breath and plucked up the courage to say, I can't go to the movies tomorrow. Why? Li Liantong, who was sitting at the desk and writing a report, turned around and asked in surprise. Yanjika hesitated for a moment and decided to tell the truth, I have to go on a date with my boyfriend. Her voice became lower and lower. Date? Boyfriend? Shi Xiangyang, who was lying on the bed playing with her phone, suddenly sat up and asked in surprise. Li Liantong and Zhong Yanru, who was playing games on the computer, also stood up at the same time. You have a boyfriend? When did you have a boyfriend? Yanjika was embarrassed by their sparkling eyes. She forced herself to keep calm and said, just on Valentine's Day. Our relationship wasn't very stable before, so I didn't mention it. Is it the boy who stopped at the door of our dormitory and confessed? Zhong Yanru and Yanjika were in the same major. She was the one who accompanied Yanjika back that day. She was natural and unrestrained and didn't care about trifles. She was the lubricant for their good relationship in the dormitory. Oh. Yanjika bit her lower lip and said, he's a teammate of the martial arts club, a former high school classmate. I told you that you would get into trouble sooner or later if you kept going to the martial arts club. You really got into trouble. Li Liantong joked and gossiped, what kind of boy is he? Isn't he handsome? No, his appearance is quite ordinary. He's clean and pleasing to the eye. Yanjika answered frankly. Li Liantong thought of something and suddenly laughed, I have something to say but I don't know if I should say it. If it's too dirty then don't say it. Yanjika answered without hesitation. Only 2 of her dormitory mates were from the School of Business and Economics. The other 2 were from the School of Clinical Medicine. Although Li Liantong had never had a boyfriend before, she was both dirty and dirty. She could often come up with shocking words. However, in front of outsiders she was dignified and pure. Li Liantong laughed and said, since his appearance is ordinary, then he must have a lot of inner qualities. She emphasized the word inner qualities, which would create ambiguity when people heard it. Bah! Hello Dirty Tong, goodbye Dirty Tong. Yanjika laughed and scolded. Shi Xiangyang said with grief and indignation, such a cute and beautiful girl like Ku was abducted just like that. I can't accept it. A lot of boys in our major are probably crying. Last time when Ku sent me textbooks they were simply shocked. From time to time they would ask me about the situation. Her sexual orientation was normal, but she loved beautiful things the most, including beautiful girls. Her catchphrase was white, fragrant, and soft girls. Who didn't like girls? The boys in our college will probably be devastated. The goodies have flowed into the fields of outsiders. Zhong Yinru also joked and then asked curiously, "Ku, what kind of boy is he?" Yanjika thought seriously and suddenly laughed. "He's a silly guy, very silly. But he's considerate, gentle, and occasionally humorous. He's more attentive and attentive." As she spoke, she thought of the fresh cream cake that Lu Qing gave her. She thought of Lu Cheng's possible appearance when he was checking the spot and his foolishness when he deliberately hid it. While she was recalling, she suddenly saw Li Liantong hand a mirror to her. She laughed and said, "Ko, you look like a typical girl in love now. Women in love will become beautiful indeed." Yanjika looked at her in shock. She saw herself in the mirror unconsciously smiling. Her cheeks were slightly red and her eyes were like stars. Gentleness was exposed and sweetness was hidden. She seemed shy and happy at the same time. She was so beautiful that even she was a little surprised. "Is this how I look now? It's only been 10 days since Cheng confessed. It's only been 10 days since I tried to accept." Chapter 141. While Yanjika was staring at herself in the mirror in a daze, Shi Xiangyang leaned on the edge of the bed and supported her chin with one hand. She praised and teased, "Now I finally understand what glowing means." Li Liantong laughed and said, "Ku, wait until you've been showered with love for a while, then you'll understand what it means to be a beauty." Yanjika suddenly woke up and blurted out, "Although I'm embarrassed by your compliment, I'll still accept it. But you have to explain why you use such a strange word like showering." "Is it strange?" Li Liantong laughed and said, "You need to learn about it. Maybe it'll come in handy soon." Yanjika blushed and immediately changed the topic. "Dirty Tong, look at you. You look so pure and pretty. Why are you so dirty?" Yanjika looked at Dirty Tong and said, "Dirty Tong, why are you so dirty?" This is called storing up theoretical knowledge. Li Liantong's expression didn't change. Yanjika continued, "Of the two boys who chased after you, which one did you like?" "None of them." Li Liantong suddenly realized something. "Ku, don't try to drag me into this matter. You have to bring your boyfriend out and let us see who has captured your heart. We have to bring him out for a walk." "That's right. As your boyfriend, he didn't even treat us to a meal. That's so incompetent. I don't know how he managed to chase after you." Zhong Yinru also joined in. She was a little chubby but not ugly. Born in a divorced family, she developed a generous and caring character. Shi Xiangyang immediately patted the bed and echoed, "I'm going to face my love rival. I want to see how he managed to kidnap our fair, fragrant, and soft Ku." She was a tall girl with wheat-colored skin. When she was not wearing glasses, she would look rather muddle-headed. However, once she put on glasses, held a scalpel, and faced a little white mouse and a little white rabbit, she looked a little like a cold killer described by Li Liantong. Yanjika couldn't handle their teasing and had to surrender. Okay. I'll bring him to meet you and treat you to a meal when I have time." Lu Qing took out the key with his left hand and opened the door of his own dormitory. The living room was empty, but there was a lingering smell of alcohol. "We're having a weekend meal together and playing online games?" He guessed the whole story and walked slowly to his little dormitory. Suddenly, he heard the sound of the doorknob turning quickly. His heart skipped a beat and he immediately took a few steps back. At this moment, the wooden door of Kai Zhongming's dormitory opened, and Zhao Chong, Qin Imo, and the others jumped out. They were holding something that was used during birthday celebrations, and they sprayed it in front of Lu Cheng. The colorful strips almost fell to Lu Cheng's feet, and they almost covered his head and face. "Welcome back, our great master." Kai Zhongming looked at Lu Cheng cheekily. "Surprise? Surprise my ass." Lu Cheng scolded jokingly. "How did you come up with this idea?" "Fortunately, my senses were sharp and I retreated in time. Otherwise, I would have to take another bath. With one hand injured, this was a difficult thing to do." Kai Zhongming pointed at Qin Imo and said, "After we asked about your injury, we just wanted to congratulate you verbally. But Qin Imo insisted on doing something to make it livelier and grander. We thought that since we had nothing to do, we might as well just let him be." He had a helpless look on his face as if they were adults accompanying a child. But Lu Cheng clearly remembered that little Ming was the one who made the most noise and was most pleased with himself. "What surprise?" I'm not fooling around. I'm just grateful to Cheng for making me proud in front of my friends. Qin Imo, who looked like a refined beast, immediately retorted. What do you mean? Kai Zongming asked in surprise. Obviously he had never heard Qin Imo mention this before. Zhao Chang and the others were also curious, waiting for Qin Imo to answer their doubts. Qin Imo laughed and said, let me drink a mouthful of ** tea and slowly explain. Lu Qing almost burst out laughing. He felt that although Qin Imo, a rich second generation, didn't have much interaction with his roommates in the entertainment circle, he had a good personality and was easy to get along with. In the afternoon, everyone in the dormitory felt exhausted after watching Lu Qing and the others' tough and fierce competition. Qin Imo took out his phone and took a blurry picture of the TV. He opened it and shared it proudly. Congratulations to my awesome roommate for winning. He defeated 3 opponents by himself. After everyone had played a few games online, he picked up his phone again to see if there were any replies. He saw that many people liked his post and many people asked what the competition was. After replying to group stage of preliminaries, he found that a friend who often competed with him also replied, what kind of awesome fighters can you college students have? I know a real young master who is quite famous in the martial arts circle of Songqing. Last time, 3 big men were holding him down but he just shook them and threw them away. Isn't he awesome? Zheng Xiao, you're better at bragging than singing. My classmate defeated a professional 9th pin fighter. Qin Imo couldn't help but show off. Zheng Xiao's original name was Zheng Xiaowen. He had an older sister at home and could be considered a real rich second generation. Zheng Xiaowen immediately replied, stop bragging, you beast. If he can defeat a professional 9th pin fighter, he definitely won't be unknown. Tell me his name. What if I know him? Why don't I let him fight with the master I know? Fine, his name is Lu Qing. If you have the ability you can go and find out. Qin Imo said stubbornly. Zheng Xiaowen was drinking afternoon tea with someone. He looked at his phone and smiled. He raised his head and asked, my buddy loves to brag. He said he knows a super awesome young master. Can you help me? Beside him sat a young man with sharp eyes. He smiled and said, a super awesome young master? In the circle of Songqing I should know him. Zheng Xiaowen laughed and said, didn't I tell you? He loves to brag. What if he pulls an amateur fighter out of nowhere? You definitely won't know him. Tell me what's his name. Maybe we can learn from each other. The young man with sharp eyes smiled indifferently. Zheng Xiaowen took a sip of tea and said, Lu Qing? I've never heard of him. The young man with sharp eyes was stunned. After a while he asked, Lu Qing from Songqing University? Yes. My buddy is from Songqing University. He said he's his classmate. Zheng Xiaowen observed carefully and said, is he really that awesome? The young man with sharp eyes nodded heavily and said, he's really awesome. How about compared to you? Zheng Xiaowen asked in surprise. At his current age he was still receiving education. The mature masters of Danchi State would at most be polite to him for the sake of his father. They wouldn't hang out with him for no reason. Among the martial artists he played with, this guy was the best. The young man with sharp eyes thought of the fight that just ended. He thought of the gesture that made everyone shut up and the fact that Lu Qing had only been practicing martial arts for half a year. Although he didn't want to admit it, he still nodded with difficulty and answered, he's better than me, better than you? Zheng Xiaowen gasped. He didn't dare to answer Qin Mo's questions anymore. He didn't dare to mention anything about learning from each other. Haha, I feel so good when I think of Zheng Xiao's face. Qing, you're awesome. You're famous in the martial arts circle of Songqing. Qin Mo laughed heartily. Before Lu Qing could say anything, Qiu Zhigao asked in confusion, how did you know the situation on the other side? You even know the details of their conversation. Qin Mo laughed and said, it's not just the two of us having afternoon tea. Most of Zheng Xiao's friends are also my friends. I sold him out so quickly. Although he didn't want to admit it, Lu Qing felt a little happy. He thought for a while and said, what's the name of the young martial artist that Zheng Xiao knows? Maybe I know him too. Pan Qingyun. Qin Mo answered honestly. Lu Qing frowned and shook his head. It sounds familiar but I don't think I know him. His roommates didn't bother with this question. Kai Zongming laughed and said, Qing, they said it's time to give you a new nickname. Iron Lung, 4 lungs, 8 lungs. I think those are too tacky, so I suggested, Perpetual Motion Machine. Lu Qing was stunned. He thought for a while and said, Perpetual Motion Machine. It's okay but it's a little weird. What's weird? A perpetual motion machine with unlimited stamina. As Kai Zhongming explained, he smirked and gestured a pile-driving exercise. Never stop exercising. F***ck off. You perverted guy, I don't know you. Lu Qing scolded jokingly. While they were talking and laughing, the door suddenly opened. Tang Wen came in from outside. Tang Wen, didn't you go to the calculus exam? Qin Mo asked in surprise. Tang Wen said absent-mindedly, I finished the exam. It was all the knowledge points that Professor Zhang taught me that afternoon. He didn't accept any gifts. Professor Zhang is a model teacher. Zhao Chang sighed. He doesn't take a grade card. Tang Wen suddenly showed an expression worse than crying. But I still don't know how to do it. Lu Cheng and the others were stunned. They looked at each other and didn't know what to say or how to comfort him. Back in the small dormitory, he put his phone in place and typed quickly on the keyboard with his left hand. He shared with Yanjika the fact that he was in the limelight even though he wasn't there. Yanjika sent an emoji covering its mouth and laughing. That's awesome. Ching, you're now a person who can use your name. After chatting for a while, she mentioned the request of her roommates. Those little bitches want you to treat them to a meal. They want to see if you have 3 heads and 6 arms. I'm sorry to disappoint them. I'm a one-armed hero. Lu Qing was very happy that Yanjika was willing to tell her roommates about their relationship. Coach Yan, you decide when to treat them to a meal. Then Monday at noon. Yanjika sent a pitiful emoji with her eyes wide open. You don't know how badly they teased me. Lu Qing quickly comforted her and listened to her complaining. When she went to do her homework, he opened the web page to see the praise on the forum. As soon as he opened it, he was stunned because all the posts on the homepage were cursing him. Trash who uses dirty tricks. Disgusting person who doesn't have the demeanor of a martial artist. Villain who gets his way. Immoral. Arrogant people don't have a good ending. Did the forum explode? Lu Qing was no stranger to this. He was a little angry, a little annoyed, and a little worried about his fans. But he soon calmed down and closed the web page rationally. If he cursed with this group of people, not only would it ruin his mood, but it would also be a waste of time. Anyway, they were just venting for a while and it would be over soon. At that time he could help to push up the top posts. The best way to slap their faces was to become stronger and defeat more and more masters. Then they could only look up to him. Even if they spit out dirty water, it would only fall on themselves. Calming himself down, Lu Qing recalled every detail of today's match. He analyzed his responses from a bystander's point of view and reviewed his mistakes and habits. Gradually he felt that he had gained something new. For example, attacking the genitals wasn't a bad or ineffective move, but as long as it was appropriate, it would be easy for the enemy to use it as an opportunity to set a trap for him. When he said good night to Yanjika, he felt that he was strong again. The enemy's hatred was the best reward for him. Chapter 142. The sky was still dark and the street lights were still shining. Lu Qing woke up early as usual, 10 minutes earlier than usual. After trying to take off his clothes to sleep last night, he found that it would be very difficult and time-consuming to put on his clothes when his right arm was injured. After a while he finally got everything ready. After washing up, he sent a message to Yanjika, who was sleeping soundly, complaining about the hardships of being a disabled person. Then, with a relaxed mood, he took a deep breath of fresh air that nourished his lungs and enjoyed the silence when everyone else was asleep and he was the only one awake. He jogged slowly to the lakeside, persisting in his daily training that had become a habit. When he arrived at the usual place, he saw his master waiting for him. He hurriedly greeted him respectfully. Geezer sure nodded slightly. Good. You didn't leave the line of fire with a minor injury. You know how to persist. You have to remember this perseverance. It's the foundation of how far you can go on the road of martial arts. Yes, master. Lu Qing answered seriously. At the same time, he complained secretly in his heart, I'm not used to master suddenly speaking so politely. Geezer sure didn't say more. He reminded him, for 5 days you can only practice the still stance and the moving stance routine that doesn't involve the arm. Otherwise your injury will worsen. Lu Qing nodded and asked curiously, Master, does Lin K really have to rest for a week and can't practice anything? Of course. Do you think I've eaten all these years for nothing? How could I be wrong about such a small injury? Geezer sure said unhappily. But it's good for him. Good? Lu Qing was confused. Geezer sure laughed. Lin K's character is too stubborn and introverted. He doesn't know how to relax and his whole body is too tense. Even if he understands the meaning of withdraw, he doesn't have the state of mind to grasp and complete it. Now that he's injured and has to leave martial arts for a week, he can passively relax and experience life without daily training. Although he won't be used to it at first and will feel empty and irritated, after a few days he should be able to understand the meaning of still. Being able to release and withdraw is the Danchi realm. Master has a good grasp of Lin Kei's problem. Lu Qing sighed quietly. For the members of the martial arts club, it was a lifetime of luck to meet such a good coach in the last years of their lives, the most critical time for martial arts improvement. To him that was the luckiest of the luckiest. With a grateful attitude, he devoutly devoted himself to practicing martial arts. He first practiced the yin-yang stance, condensation stance, and other basic still stances a few times to review the old and learn the new. Then he gathered his strength and slowly practiced one move after another, tempering every part of his body except his injured arm. At the end of the practice, he closed his eyes and visualized a sound picture of thunderclouds in his mind. His abdomen wriggled and pulled his throat, making waves of low thunder sounds. They worked together with the continuous tightening and explosion of muscles to create rhythmic vibrations. Bit by bit, they tempered the bones and indirectly affected the changes of the bone marrow inside, creating more vital blood to flow through the 5 viscera and 6 bowels. They complemented each other with the vibration of the thunder sounds to improve the strength and ability of each organ. After experiencing the thunder roar Zen, passively in the battle with Wei Xingtian, he had completely mastered the still stance visualization and training routines of this martial arts. He was like a fish in water when he practiced. As for the actual combat method of external vibration, he needed to recover from his injured arm and spend some time to explore and try before he could master it. But no matter what, at least he had found the direction and opened the door. The 5 viscera, 6 bowels, and various organs were all precious treasures of the human body. They were delicate and fragile. Lu Qing controlled the time of his cultivation so as not to overdo it. In less than 20 minutes he stopped and opened his eyes. Not bad, there's a bit of charm. You can practice by yourself for the next half an hour. I'm going to enjoy my breakfast. Geezer sure nodded and leisurely turned to leave. Lu Qing thought for a while and began to jog around the lake for endurance training. After such a torturous battle with the fearless squad, he deeply realized the importance of physical strength and consciously wanted to improve it. Lu Qing considered this point very clearly. Don't be fooled by the fact that his physical strength was abnormal and he couldn't see the limit. This was all provided by the Jindan. If one day he lost it, wouldn't he be beaten back to his original state? After all, he couldn't rely on external forces for a long time. Only things that were thoroughly internalized could truly belong to him. Using the Jindan to improve himself was the fundamental path. He couldn't put the cart before the horse. After running for 10 minutes, Lu Qing suddenly saw a familiar face. Li Mao was standing on the stone by the lake, looking at the weak ripples on the surface of the lake. Could it be that he was so nervous and guilty that he wanted to commit suicide by jumping into the lake? Lu Qing was shocked. He took a few big strides forward. When he was close he shouted, "Senior Li Mao?" Li Mao turned his head. There was no sign of self-blame on his square face. He said in surprise, "Qing, why are you here?" Lu Qing observed for a moment and confirmed that he was overthinking. So he smiled and said, "I train around here every morning. Senior Li Mao, this is your first time here. I should be the one asking you this, right?" Li Mao showed an expression of sudden realization. He whispered to himself, "Sure enough, no one's success comes without a reason." As he spoke, he jumped off Shijing and smiled bitterly. "When I think about how I'm going to be part of the main force next Saturday, I'm a little nervous. Last night I tossed and turned and couldn't sleep well. I woke up early in the morning thinking of coming to the lakeside to get some fresh air and calm down." He glanced at Lu Qing and asked curiously, "Don't you feel nervous when you're in the arena?" "Nervous? How can I not be nervous?" Lu Qing laughed and said, "But my first challenge tournament was in Yanling, a foreign place. No one knew me at all. If I lost, I lost. I wouldn't lose face. When I thought about it, I wasn't so nervous. When I won the first round by planning beforehand, I felt more confident and gradually got used to the atmosphere of the challenge tournament. I could control myself and only feel a moderate amount of nervousness. As for when I meet a stronger opponent, such as Wei Xingtian, I always tell myself one thing." Li Mao listened with great interest and blurted out, "What is it?" "I tell myself, what's there to be nervous about? You should feel lucky to meet such a strong opponent in the arena and not in the life and death arena. Lu Qing said concisely with a lot of emotion. Because the case of the ninth pin of the dark sect involved other matters and Zhang Mingle had absconded, the police were still in the process of follow-up investigation. According to a later call from Director Xing, the earliest time he would be required to testify in court would be in May. It might even be delayed until the summer holidays. And to avoid suspicion, he didn't visit Wang Su in the hospital until the end of the winter holidays. Li Mao was stunned. He felt that Lu Cheng's plain words had a deeper meaning. After a long time, he took a breath and said, "I always feel that you are more mature than me. Sai, this nervousness of mine is an old problem. I can't change it. I don't know why." "You don't know why?" Lu Cheng teased. "I thought you would tell me a sad story about how you were slapped in the palm by your teacher when you were young. That's why it left a psychological scar. Just like every time Detective Conan solved a case, the murderer would always tell a sad story that made the listeners cry." Li Mao couldn't help but laugh. "I thought about it seriously. It's not an external reason. It's just my nervousness. I thought I had overcome a lot this time. I didn't expect that when it came to the end, it didn't change much." Lu Qing thought for a while and said, "Senior brother Li, don't worry too much about this. I think that this kind of old problem can't be cured in a short time. It can only be changed slowly, bit by bit, through the challenge tournament again and again. It's normal for you to be especially nervous about the competition next week. You don't have to blame yourself for it. Anyway, this is just an actual battle training, not a result. Once you seize the opportunity and win a match, you will gradually like the challenge tournament." "That makes sense. I was too impatient to see a change and became more nervous?" Li Mao muttered thoughtfully. Lu Qing thought for a while and suddenly asked, "Senior Li, do you have a girlfriend?" "Why did you ask this?" Li Mao looked at Lu Cheng in confusion but answered honestly, "No. I used to like my desk mate in high school. Unfortunately, she didn't like me and found another boyfriend. I haven't been able to get over it. I always feel that I haven't completely gotten over it, so I don't want to hurt other girls." Speaking of this, he sighed and said, "When I first joined the martial arts club, my main purpose was to find something to kill time and divert my attention, so that I wouldn't always recall the past. So at that time it was really melancholy, loss and pain. After half a semester I almost calmed down. I joined the martial arts course again for the sake of securing a job in the future. I had the same idea as Jiang Fuxing and Li Xiaowen. Nowadays it's getting harder and harder for college students to find a job. I need to prepare earlier and more. At that time I actually didn't have any feelings for the martial arts club. It wasn't until I saw the painful faces of Lin Ke, Chen Jianghua, and the others and heard Coach Shi's encouragement that I fell in love with this place and this atmosphere. I really wanted to do something for the martial arts club and didn't want to be a burden to everyone. I've been training hard these days because I saw you guys improve so fast and so fiercely. I was afraid that I would be left far behind if I slacked off and couldn't make up for my mistakes." Listening to Li Mao's sentiments, Lu Qing couldn't help but sigh. Senior Li Mao was usually a more active and cheerful member of the special training team, who knew that he had so many things on his mind. After saying this, Li Mao seemed to relax a lot. He asked in confusion, "Why did you ask me if I have a girlfriend? Are you going to introduce one to me?" "No." Lu Qing chuckled. "I just want to say that Senior Sun Jian is not afraid of failure or losing face when he has a girlfriend. You're a single dog who doesn't even have a girlfriend. Who cares if you lose face? Why are you so nervous?" Li Mao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He clenched his left fist and shook it gently. "Senior Li Mao, come on." Without waiting for Li Mao's response, he turned around and continued his endurance training. Li Mao was in a daze for a long time. Finally, he clenched his fist and said to himself, "Come on." The special training on Sunday morning passed quickly. Lu Cheng and Yan Zhika went back to the dormitory after lunch. They took the time to take a nap and recharge. When they were about to leave, he stood in the bathroom and carefully cleaned himself up. He was full of expectation for the next date. Although he felt very satisfied just practicing martial arts with Yan Zhika, holding hands, watching movies and sharing food with her, people were always greedy. Moreover, Yan Zhika said that she needed time to adapt when she accepted his confession, which made him a little nervous. He always hoped that there would be continuous progress and he always wanted to be more certain. "I don't know if I can finish my first kiss today." Lu Qing was in a daze. He touched the chewing gum in his pocket and the first gift for Yan Zhika. "P.S. Today I'm going back home after a rush. Let me make a copy. Otherwise, I'll be in a bit of a rush every time." Chapter 143. Because he didn't have the time or opportunity to leave school, Lu Qing bought the gift through the official flagship store online. When he received the package in time, he thanked the online shopping and express delivery. He thanked them for making the world so *king convenient. Well, I can't appear too eager and have too much hope so as not to scare Yenjika. If there's a chance, I'll give it a try. If there's no chance, I'll wait for the next time. Looking at himself in the mirror, Lu Qing silently encouraged himself. Then he took out a piece of chewing gum, unwrapped it, stuffed it into his mouth and seriously stirred it. Although he might not have a chance and although he didn't have bad breath, it's always better to be prepared. It's always good to leave a perfect impression on the girl during the first kiss. Chewing the gum, Lu Qing walked out of his own dormitory, walked along the pedestrian street, and arrived outside Building 3 where Yenjika lived. He sent a message to her telling her that she could come out now. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he found a trash can and spit out the gum, so as not to reveal his wild ambition and make the girl vigilant and resistant. Yenjika was always punctual. Lu Qing didn't have to wait long before he saw her coming out with martial arts training-related items in her hands. Because the weather was getting warmer, the girl wore a thin white sweater, a short orange coat, a black pleated skirt, a pair of matching leggings and a pair of small boots. She was different from her usual student style, but she didn't look mature, still full of youth. Moreover, she seemed to have applied something lightly on her face, which made her fair skin more rosy, delicate and charming. Her eyes were bright and spirited like stars. Lu Qing, who was starting to get used to her beauty, was stunned again. For a moment, he stared at her blankly and forgot to greet her. He also ignored the chubby girl beside Yenjika. Zhong Yenru couldn't help but laugh. She moved closer to Yenjika's ear and said in a low voice, "You're really silly. But looking at you now, which boy wouldn't be silly?" Yenjika turned her head and smiled. She seemed to be quite satisfied with Lu Qing's reaction, but she said, "Look at his silly look. If I had known, I wouldn't have let you come down with me." Lu Qing, who had been following the girl with his eyes, was awakened by her movement. He hurriedly took a deep breath and walked up to her. He said a little shyly, "I was too engrossed just now," he was about to add, "You look especially beautiful today," when he suddenly noticed that there was a girl beside Yenjika. He was afraid that the shy girl wouldn't be able to accept it, so he stopped abruptly. Yenjika pursed her lips and didn't respond to Lu Qing's compliment directly. With a smile she introduced, "This is my roommate Zhong Yenru. She's a really nice girl, just a little noisy." She turned her head and said to Zhong Yenru, "He is Lu Qing. You saw his silly look just now." These words made Lu Qing's face turn slightly red, and Zhong Yenru couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh softly. Facing other girls, Lu Qing no longer felt uneasy, even if she was a girl's roommate. Therefore he smiled calmly and generously. "Hello, are you Ku's roommate from the same major? You know?" Zhong Yenru looked at Yenjika in surprise. Yenjika shook her head innocently, indicating that she didn't say that before. Lu Qing smiled and explained, Ku would occasionally mention her roommates. Every time I would take a notebook and remember them, thinking that if I don't succeed in my confession, or if there is a conflict in the future, I can take a roundabout way and take the route of the masses. She said that her roommate from the same major has the best personality, natural and unrestrained, and is very warm-hearted. Just now, she specially emphasized that you are especially nice, so I thought that it should be the same person, so I made a bold guess. He seized the opportunity and successfully got the nickname Ku. Zhong Yenru was pleasantly surprised. She didn't expect Yenjika to praise her in front of her boyfriend. It seemed that she sincerely felt that her personality was good, and that she was a friend that could be with for a long time. She couldn't help but look at Yenjika, feeling warm in her heart. Who doesn't like to hear good words, especially such sincere words behind one's back? Yenjika didn't expect Lu Qing to not only respond appropriately, but also help her to make a good impression on Zhong Yenru. For a moment she felt pleased and proud, and her heart was filled with sweetness. She snorted and said proudly, "If there is a conflict in the future? Now you're thinking about how to bully me in the future? Damn, why is the focus of a girl's attention different from mine?" Lu Qing was a little dumbfounded, but he quickly recovered and said with a smile, "I'm just afraid that I will make a mistake, right?" What kind of mistake are you planning to make?" Yenjika said coquettishly. Lu Qing suddenly had a feeling that he should never argue with a girl. He held back his laughter and said, "For example, trying to be brave and getting hurt or something like that?" At this point he quickly changed the topic and looked at Zhong Yenru saying, "Since you are the roommate from the same major, then I have to thank you for helping Ku block the harassment on Valentine's Day. Otherwise I could only cry and faint in the corner. Although the incident on Valentine's Day still left a deep impression in his mind, it felt as if it had been a long time. When he was with Yenjika, he always felt that time flew by and that they would be separated in the blink of an eye. But when he thought about what happened 10 days ago, it felt as if a century had passed, as if he and Yenjika had been dating for a century. This was really a strange feeling. Seeing the boy in front of her calm, confident, and humorous, Zhong Yenru nodded secretly and gave him high marks. She felt that he was a good match for Yenjika, so she made a gesture of shivering and said with a smile, "Don't thank me, your conversation just now was so corny. I'd better go back to the dormitory and focus on memorizing my foreign words." After saying that, she waved her hand and turned to walk back to the dormitory. When she was about to reach the entrance of the unit, she looked back and saw Lu Qing holding Yenjika's right hand, whispering and laughing as they left together. The girl was as beautiful as a flower, and the boy was calm and confident. They were a pair that made people envious. The sour smell of love. Zhong Yenru scolded with a smile. Then she fell into a daze and sighed, saying, "I want it too." She didn't ask for it to be good, just half as good as the one just now. In the martial arts arena, Yenjika changed into the Songqing University Martial Arts Club uniform with white and black edges. She tied her drooping black hair into a ponytail, looking fresh and pretty. It was a different kind of beauty. Looking at her, Lu Qing felt a sense of pride. But in broad daylight, with so many people watching, he was too embarrassed to go up and hug the girl. He had to take into account her thin face. As for his own face, is it edible? Is it more important than a hug? Boys, in this aspect, are always getting thicker and thicker, to the point of being shameless. He put away his thoughts and smiled. "Let's practice pushing hands and listening first. You're stronger than most of the amateur fighters in that you can enter meditation, so you have to play to your strengths and avoid your weaknesses, so that you can use your advantages to defeat the enemy and win." Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. "Why do I feel like our roles are reversed and you're the coach? Aren't I just repeating your usual teachings, Coach Yen?" Lu Qing fawned over her. Meditation has two main functions in actual combat. One is listening, and the other is controlling your own muscles, fine-tuning the details of your body, and accomplishing things like forcibly changing the center of gravity and constantly borrowing force. Yenjika stopped smiling and listened attentively. She nodded seriously and said, "So we should practice pushing hands and listening first, and then practice 24 blizzard strikes in actual combat?" "You're right, Coach Yen." Lu Qing smiled and gave her a thumbs up. "If you can master these two aspects, it'll be helpful for your family's martial arts. At that time, even if you encounter an amateur 1 or 2 pin at the peak of physical strength, you'll still have a chance. Even if I encounter Qin Jianghua's fighting style, I won't be taken advantage of." "Well then let's start." Yenjika bit her lower lip lightly, her eyes bright, eager to try. Lu Qing reached out his left hand and put it on Yenjika's palm. While feeling the delicate softness of her skin, he said, "Calm down and try to enter the state of concealment of spirit and qi. Also, maintain the feeling of half meditation. You can't completely immerse yourself in it or you'll ignore the external." He told Yenjika his experience in this aspect bit by bit, and racked his brains to make her understand. During this process he gradually understood some of the specious parts and found many hidden problems. Teaching and learning are mutually beneficial, and education is combined with fun. That's probably what they mean. Lu Qing thought happily. Although the girl didn't have Jin Dan, and her meditation was only a small success, she had a lot more knowledge than Lu Qing in terms of martial arts. After several failures in the beginning, she gradually got the feeling and groped for the trick of half meditation. "Well, you can tell where my next move is through the changes of my muscles and pores on my skin?" Lu Qing asked in a low voice. Yenjika quietly listened and said, "You're going to whip your left leg." "Yes, but I'm still a little bit off." "I'm not going to whip my left leg, I'm going to take a step forward with my left leg and hit you sideways." Lu Qing corrected her. This kind of conversation kept happening. Yenjika showed her talent in this aspect. Although she wasn't as abnormal as Lu Qing, she soon got the hang of it. The more she practiced, the happier and more energetic she became. Unknowingly, 40 minutes passed. Lu Qing suddenly heard a teasing voice, "Is this how the two of you train? I'm so envious of you." He and Yenjika turned their heads at the same time, only to see Li Mao passing by with a bag of martial arts suit and shoes. Yenjika blushed again and hurriedly let go of his hand. "We're practicing listening skill. Lu Qing answered seriously without a trace of shyness. Yes, yes, yes. I won't disturb you too. I'm going to the other side. Li Mao teased and left with a big laugh. Yanjika slightly blushed and lowered her eyes. After a while she said, Senior brother Li seems to be more relaxed. Maybe he figured something out? Lu Qing guessed and then suggested, how about we practice the 24 blizzard strikes in real combat? He couldn't practice listening skill anymore. What if Yanjika didn't want to go on a date anymore? Yanjika took a deep breath to sober herself up. Lu Qing only defended and helped Yanjika to achieve a better experience of constantly borrowing strength from the opponent. Although he couldn't use one of his hands, he kept his footwork well and could always avoid the attacks on his right side in time. Under Yanjika's fierce attacks, he didn't fall down after one round. After one round, Yanjika bent over, put her hands on her knees and gasped for breath. The real 24 blizzard strikes for strikes is really exhausting. No wonder my cousin could only fight one round. Her previous 24 blizzard strikes against Guqin could only be considered a beginner. Lu Qing thought of something and said with a serious face, Are your muscles sore? Do you want me to give you a massage to help you relax? Yanjika rolled her eyes at him and hummed, Let's talk about it after you master the technique of massage. Lu Qing silently remembered and decided to learn how to massage next. After resting for a while, they took a shower and changed their clothes. Instead of going back to the dormitory, they went directly to the school bus station. Of course, Lu Qing was the one carrying all the things, while Yanjika seemed to have lightly applied something. Her skin was white and rosy, and her lips were pink and moist, which made Lu Qing feel restless. According to his plan, he would surprise Yanjika with the gift while watching a movie in a dark environment and seize the opportunity to kiss her when she was touched. That kind of environment was more secluded, and he chose a seat near the back where the audience wouldn't notice, which could minimize Yanjika's shyness and timidity. What a perfect plan. P.S. My Weixin official account is holding a lottery to give away signed books and peripherals as a thank you for your support during this time. If you follow Wuxia 1985, you will have a chance to win starting tomorrow. Chapter 144. In the cinema with the lights off, Lu Qing couldn't calm down. He couldn't help but look at Yanjika beside him, waiting for the amazing wizard to enter a relatively ordinary stage so that he could give her the gift and kiss her without disturbing her mood. So far, everything had gone according to his expectations. The 2 rows behind him and the seats around him were almost empty, so he didn't have to worry about being stared at and making her feel shy and awkward. The movie was also very good, and the little details were very warm and funny, making her laugh in a low voice from time to time, full of happiness. The environment was dark and private, suitable for fermenting intimate feelings. In other words, everything was ready, except for the east wind. Thinking of this, Lu Qing's mouth was a little dry. He pursed his lips and reached out to touch the gift in his pocket. It was a colorful gold bracelet. He had combined various suggestions from the internet and chosen the ones that he thought were reasonable. Now he had his own opinion on the first gift between lovers. Regardless of the type of gift that the other party lacked or liked, the first time one gave a gift to a lover was definitely when both parties had just started dating, or even when they hadn't officially started dating. They were far from knowing each other well enough, and their tastes and preferences had yet to be fully exposed. In this case, the first gift must be one that could evoke good memories of each other. It was suitable for couples who had known each other for a long time. Looking at it could remind them of the warmth of the past. This could reflect the intention of the gift giver and the memories of the relationship. However, Lu Qing thought that he had only known Yanjika for half a year and had only dated her for 10 days. Giving such a gift was still lacking in depth and atmosphere. He planned to look for his little notebook on the anniversary of their relationship and edit some words and scenes to make a corresponding gift. Eliminating the first choice, when a guy still couldn't grasp the details of a girl's aesthetic standards, he should never ask for something fresh, unique, and original. In that case, with a man's poor aesthetic standards, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to get his girlfriend's point. She would be moved by the gift but unable to complain at the same time. When she went back, she would hide it in a corner and only keep it as a souvenir. Therefore, at this time it was not wrong to follow the rules. The classic was not necessarily bad, but at least it would not make the surprise turn into a shock. The value of the gift should not be too cheap, and it should be the best within the limits of one's ability. The kind that was cheap and unique could wait for future opportunities. The first time always had a special meaning. After careful consideration, Lu Qing decided to give up the idea for the time being. He decided to buy a bracelet together in the future. Instead, he chose a bracelet that could be adjusted to fit the size of the bracelet. When it came to the specific purchase, he thought that gold was too vulgar and not suitable for young people. He couldn't afford platinum and diamonds, so he finally settled on the more fashionable colored gold. With rose pink as the base, 6 small hearts were strung together. One was golden and the other was silver. It was quite beautiful and was worth nearly 1,000 yuan. Of course, whether it was beautiful or not was just a conclusion that Lu Qing came to based on the opinions of the girls in the evaluation and his own feelings. But Yanjika was not a girl after all. She had her own aesthetic standards. Whether she would think it was beautiful or not was still unknown. He could only say that such a bracelet would not be too ugly for her. After touching the bracelet, Lu Qing looked at Yanjika beside him restlessly. He saw that under the dim light of the big screen, the girl had a faint sense of beauty. Her outline was extremely delicate. Looking at Yanjika's smile, Lu Qing quietly took a breath and leaned over. His left hand slowly stretched out of his pocket. At this moment, Yanjika suddenly moved closer. She was afraid to disturb others and whispered with a smile, "It's so funny. That owl just now was so silly and cute." Lu Qing was startled and put his left hand back. Seeing that the girl was staring at the screen with bright eyes and focusing on the plot, he felt a strong sense of guilt for interrupting her. Let's wait a little longer. When the plot is not so interesting. He made up his mind and leaned his head to Yanjika, whispering in her ear, "Yeah, that owl was so silly and happy." Being close to her, Lu Qing smelled the light and sweet fragrance of the girl and felt her hair brushing his face due to his breath. He was instantly intoxicated and enjoyed this closeness. They talked about the plot intermittently and in a low voice for a while. His nose was full of the girl's beautiful smell. He could not help but feel restless and put his left hand into his pocket. "I'm so worried. Will he die?" Yanjika suddenly grabbed Lu Qing's right hand and looked at the screen nervously without blinking. How could I interrupt her like this? Lu Qing felt like crying but had no tears. He put the bracelet back. Phew, that's good. After a while, Yanjika exhaled and looked at Lu Qing. She lowered her voice and said, "Qing, why are you acting so weird?" "I was also very worried just now." Lu Qing answered sadly. "Yeah, I'm super nervous." Yanjika agreed. Lu Qing enjoyed the close communication between the two of them, looking for opportunities again and again. However, Yanjika had been watching the movie attentively and seriously for the whole time without a pee. "Next time I'll choose a less interesting movie next time." Lu Qing silently clenched his fist and regretted. He gave up the idea of kissing in disappointment and concentrated on the intimacy. Unknowingly, the movie ended and the ending song and thank you list began. Yanjika tried to sit up straight and wait for the lights to turn on. At this moment, Lu Qing's right hand that was holding hers tightened slightly and pulled her back. Yanjika was afraid that if she sat up straight it would affect Lu Qing's wound. She gave up and looked at Lu Qing with a pair of slightly innocent eyes in confusion. Lu Qing took a breath and said the lines that he had practiced over and over again. "Beauty, you dropped something." Yanjika looked confused. She was so cute that Lu Qing almost forgot to take out the gift. At this moment, the lights turned on. Lu Qing took out his left hand from his pocket and said with a smile, "You dropped a bracelet." While speaking, he let go of his right hand and held the girl's wrist. With the help of his left hand, he put on the bracelet with difficulty. Yanjika was stunned at first. When she saw it clearly, she suddenly raised her right hand and covered her mouth. Her eyes were shining like water. She was surprised and happy at the same time. When she saw Lu Qing's clumsy movements because of the inconvenience of his right hand, her eyebrows curved and her smile was gentle and tender. "Very beautiful." She took back her hand and looked at it carefully. She lowered her eyebrows and smiled gently. Her face was full of surprise and blush. Lu Qing saw that the girl was really happy and became very happy himself. He smiled and said, "It's good that you like it." Yanjika smiled and blurted out, "Why do you want to give me a bracelet?" As soon as the words came out, she was annoyed. How could there be so many reasons for a gift between lovers? She didn't need to ask too much in case she lost the hazy beauty. What should I do? I was stupid just now. Humph, it must be Qing who infected me. He must be the one who infected me. One is marked by one's company. Lu Qing was stunned by the question and didn't know how to answer. Should he say that he just thought it was more beautiful and more suitable? After thinking for a while, he had an idea and said with a cheeky smile, "When I'm not with you, this bracelet will hold your hand for me." Yenjika rolled her eyes at him and held his hand. She looked to the side and said, "Let's go and eat. I'm so hungry." Seeing that the audience in the cinema was leaving, Lu Qing had to give up the idea of kissing her completely. He took the girl and went to the stone fish shop nearby. The shop was very special. The fish was first cut into thin slices and the bones and non-essential parts were boiled with pickled cabbage and other seasonings. Then a wooden barrel was served to the customer. The barrel was lined with specially selected and clean stones and heated until they were boiling hot. Then the fish slices were put on the barrel and the fish soup was poured in. After a short wait, the fish was ready to eat. The fish meat was tender and fragrant, and the soup was sour and fresh, which was very appetizing. The special way of cooking made Yenjika very interested. When the fish was ready, she couldn't wait to taste the fish slices. After drinking the soup, she said to Lu Qing proudly, "It's really good. The soup is very delicious. Yi, are you hungry? With your dexterous left hand, you can't pick up such thin fish slices. Beg me, I'll help you." Looking at the girl's proud face, Lu Qing immediately put on a pitiful look. "Coach Yen, please do me a favor. I'm dying of hunger." Yenjika nodded proudly and gave him many slices of fish slices and a bowl full of soup. Then she started to satisfy her own appetite. After eating for a while, Lu Qing raised his head and said, "I want to eat. The rice and soup must be very delicious." "I think so too." Yenjika was happy as if she had found a bosom friend. The two of them ate 3 small wooden buckets of rice before they were satisfied and slowed down their pace. They then began to talk about various things. "By the way, you still don't know Coach Shi's name, right?" Yenjika asked with a smile. She couldn't help but play with the bracelet with her right hand. She seemed to like it very much. No one knew whether it was because she really thought it was beautiful or because the person who gave it to her was the right person. Lu Qing was very happy to see this, as if his efforts were rewarded. He shook his head and said, "I don't know. I was injured that day, so I didn't take the initiative to get the ticket for Coach Shi. I suggested to get it for him, but he refused. I suspect there's something wrong with his full name." Yenjika put on a, "I'm a famous detective" look. "Is Coach Shi a wanted criminal?" Lu Qing blurted out. "How is that possible? Have you ever seen a wanted criminal with such a good relationship with the police? And the headmaster wouldn't ask for a master whose background is unknown." Yenjika denied this possibility and guessed with a smile, "I suspect his full name is very rustic or funny, which doesn't match his identity as a mighty one with physical invulnerability. That's why he doesn't want us to know." "That makes sense. Is his name Shi? Lu Qing guessed happily. They didn't leave until it was almost 8 o'clock. The restaurant was priced at ordinary prices, so with Lu Qing's appetite, they only ate a little more than 200 yuan. In order to catch the last bus back to the new campus, Lu Qing didn't propose to take a walk nearby to help with digestion. Instead, he accompanied Yenjika by the roadside, waiting for the arrival of the online taxi. At this time, he remembered that there was a flower shop dozens of meters away. "After the gift, I need to give her a bunch of flowers to make it perfect." Lu Qing looked at his phone and found that the online taxi would take at least 6 or 7 minutes to arrive because of the traffic jam. He pointed to the daily supermarket behind him and said, "I'll buy some snacks for you." Through their daily chat, he was sure that Yenjika wasn't allergic to pollen. "No, I have a bunch of them at my place. They're all from you." Yenjika shook her head. Lu Qing bought them online, but he didn't think they were official gifts. "Well, I'll go buy a bottle of water. I'm a little thirsty. You wait here for the taxi," Lu Qing suggested deliberately. "Okay, hurry up." Yenjika nodded with a smile. Under her gaze, Lu Qing entered the daily supermarket and quickly bought a bottle of water. While Yenjika was looking back at the online taxi, he ran to the flower shop dozens of meters away. His speed was so fast that he felt it was no less than a pouncing attack in a martial arts competition. 11 roses. Lu Qing shouted while taking out his wallet. "Pack it simply. ASAP. Just pack it. Even better if there is a finished product." After paying, he took the roses, put them on his back and ran back to the place where he waited for the taxi. Yenjika was looking at the daily supermarket in confusion. She felt that Lu Qing was too slow and suspected that he really went to buy snacks. How did you come back from there?" Yenjika asked in surprise when she saw Lu Qing approaching. Lu Qing calmed down and said with a smile, "Beauty, you dropped another thing. Your flowers." He stretched out his left hand in front of him, not giving Yenjika a chance to guess. Yenjika's mouth was half open and her eyes moved. She couldn't help laughing. I seem to have dropped a lot of things today. She held the flowers with both hands and her eyebrows and eyes were full of joy. Lu Qing laughed and said, "Yeah, you also dropped your boyfriend. Do you want to take it back?" While speaking, he stretched out his left hand. "Humph, you're reluctant." Yan Zhika held the flowers in her left hand and Lu Qing in her right. For the first time she took the initiative to intertwine their fingers. They successfully caught the last bus at 8:45. Yan Zhika looked radiant and held the roses in her hand. When Lu Qing held her hand and walked to the empty seats in the back row, he felt the complicated gazes of many male students. Two of them in the first row looked very pale as if they were dead. Lu Qing secretly remembered it and pulled Yan Zhika, who was looking out of the window, to the second row from the back. He lowered his voice and said, "Did those two guys chase after you?" Yan Zhika hit him with both anger and amusement. "You still ask?" She thought for a moment and said in a low voice, "One of the boys in my school chased me but I rejected him. He was actually a good guy but I just didn't like him." "You like guys like me?" Lu Qing was secretly proud and smiled. "The other one also seems to have a crush on you." "I don't know. Anyway, he didn't mention it. It's good to be seen directly. I hope they can find their own girl soon." Yan Zhika gave her blessing. In that row of seats, the two boys looked at each other and sighed together. When they returned to the new campus, the night breeze was cool, refreshing and cold. Seeing that it was not yet 9:30 and that he hadn't completely given up on his first kiss today, Lu Qing tried his last effort and said, "It's still early. Let's go for a walk by the lake to digest?" As soon as he finished speaking, he wanted to slap himself. What kind of excuse was this? Dinner had been over for so long. How could he digest it? Furthermore, it wasn't early at this time. Feeling guilty, he didn't dare to look at her. Through her hands, Lu Qing felt that Yan Zhika's pulse suddenly sped up and slightly trembled. "Are you cold?" he asked with concern. Yan Zhika lowered her eyes and looked to the side. She answered softly, "Not cold? Well, a walk is good, okay." Lu Qing was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect the girl to agree. It seemed that she was in a good mood because of the date today. She wanted to stay with him for a while. He took the girl into the road leading to the lake. While chatting, they slowly walked farther and farther along the lake. Gradually there was no one around. Thump, thump, thump. Lu Qing's heartbeat suddenly sped up. He was thinking about what excuse to find and what opportunity to create. This made his mouth dry and tongue dry. He didn't know what to say and fell into an abnormal silence. Yan Zhika didn't say anything either. She seemed to be enjoying the silence. Thump, thump, thump. Lu Qing's heart beat faster and faster. However, he also heard Yan Zhika's heart beat faster and faster. He heard, her body couldn't stop trembling. Is she afraid that I will do something bad? Or is she not used to dating in the dark? Lu Qing swallowed his saliva and turned to Yan Zhika with difficulty. He asked nervously, "Is it too dark here?" After that, he wanted to slap himself again. The street lights were high up. How was it dark? At this moment he saw Yan Zhika lowered her head. Her cheeks were flushed under the light. She was shy and timid. The girl slightly opened her mouth and said, in a low voice. It was like a small hand scratching Lu Qing's heart. Lu Qing held his breath. He felt that the girl was extremely beautiful. His heart was surging. He pulled her into his arms. A hug shouldn't make her angry, right? He had hugged her before. Yan Zhika didn't struggle. She leaned into Lu Qing's arms softly. Her long black eyelashes trembled slightly, covering her eyes. Smelling the fragrance of hair and flowers, feeling the girl's delicate body, and looking at this seductive scene, Lu Qing's mind buzzed. Blood rushed to his head. Slowly, slowly, he lowered his head and moved closer to the girl's lips. Don't refuse." He prayed silently. Yan Zhika's eyelids fluttered and slowly closed. Her pretty face was flushed red. Touching skin, Lu Qing's heart beat fast. He was very excited. Yan Zhika's body was tight at first, then relaxed. She completely snuggled in Lu Qing's arms. The bouquet of flowers in her hand fell to the ground. "You big pervert." After a long time, Yan Zhika was too shy to look up. She clenched her fist and hit the place where Lu Qing's chest and shoulder met. Lu Qing panted. He was more tired than after beating Wei Xingtian. But he was very satisfied. He was so excited that he felt like he was flying to the sky. He enjoyed the girl's gentle hit. He smiled and didn't respond. He was like an old cat that had stolen a fish. The first kiss was so sweet and beautiful. After a long time, Yan Zhika slowly calmed down. She still didn't dare to look up. Let's go back. Wait a minute. I want to hug you again. Lu Qing replied gently. But his expression was a little embarrassed. The real reason for not going back immediately was that he had set up a tent below. If he moved, it would be exposed immediately. The girl would definitely think that he was a big hooligan with impure thoughts. He thought in distress. He felt that he was wronged. He didn't think about anything just now. He was wholeheartedly thinking about tasting Yenjika's little mouth. He didn't have any dirty thoughts at all. I'm in the stage of a young man full of vigor. Because of practicing martial arts, my chi and blood have reached a certain level. It's just a kiss and I've set up a tent for a long time. He bent down, sucked in his stomach and arched his buttocks back. He didn't want the girl to notice the abnormality of his lower body. A sentence that he once saw flashed in his mind. You have to know how to cherish the age when you'll be hard for a long time just by kissing. In order not to arouse the girl's suspicion, he silently prayed to all the gods and Buddhas. With the help of the Jindan, he concealed his spirit and chi and visualized the scene of water turning into ice. But this was no longer lake water. It was boiling water. In Yenjika's dormitory, the three girls, Li Liantong, Zhong Yenru, and Shi Xiangyang, returned to their own dormitory after watching The Amazing Wizard in the school cinema and chatting about the plot. Hey, Ka hasn't come back yet? Shi Xiangyang asked in surprise. Li Liantong chuckled and said, It's a date. Besides watching movies and eating, there must be other things to do. Yesterday I specifically told Ku that boys like to suggest going to the lake to enjoy the scenery or to take a walk in the woods. When there's no one around and it's dark and windy at night, they can take advantage of her. I told her not to believe the nonsense of boys and let them take her to those places to kiss and touch her body. Yes. With my reminder, she'll definitely be alert and won't let that guy get what he wants easily. Humph, how dare he not please us. While they were talking, Yenjika pushed open the door and came in with flowers in her hand. Her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes were glowing. She was so beautiful that people didn't dare to look at her directly. Seeing that she was still blushing and her eyes were intoxicating, Li Liantong asked worriedly and nosily, Ku, don't tell me you were still taken to the lake to enjoy the scenery or to take a walk in the woods by that guy? I spent so much effort to teach her. Yenjika's pretty face turned redder. She turned her head and looked to the side. She said firmly, No. We went to the lake to take a walk, not to enjoy the scenery. Li Liantong looked at her suspiciously. Suddenly, her attention was attracted by the colorful gold bracelet on her wrist. She asked curiously, I remember that you don't wear a bracelet when you go out. Did he give it to you? Yes. Yenjika breathed a sigh of relief and looked down at the bracelet. Her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes reappeared. It's quite ordinary. Li Liantong commented with arms crossed. But for a straight man's aesthetic standards, it's not bad to have such standards. Yenjika rubbed the heart-shaped bracelet and smiled. She nodded slightly and said, Yes, I think it's okay. She said to herself silently, Anyway, I like it very much. The most important thing is the thought. Zhong Yenru also smiled and said, It's fine as long as it's not ugly. Ku, you'll have to teach his aesthetic standards slowly in the future. Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled lightly. She didn't say anything. Her right hand touched her lips subconsciously and she recalled the experience just now. Her cheeks burned again and her eyes slightly lost focus as if she was drunk. After sending the girl back to the dormitory, Lu Qing logged into QQ with his mobile phone and sent her a happy emoji. Then he walked through the pedestrian street with light steps while recalling the sweetness of his first kiss. Life is so beautiful. Chapter 145. After returning to the dormitory of the 7th building, Lu Qing finally calmed down a little after the cold night wind. He was no longer so excited and intoxicated. When he woke up, he suddenly had a lot of worries. Would this progress be too fast for Yenjika? Would she be unable to accept it? Would she resist it psychologically? Would she think that he was too impatient and focused more on the physical than the emotional level? He had thought about these things before, so the plan of the first kiss was more of a test. When he really succeeded, he was a little worried about the gains and losses. He was afraid that he would ruin the girl's impression of him. But at that moment he really couldn't control himself. He wasn't facing another girl but the girl he loved. She was shy and timid, ready to let him do whatever he wanted. If he couldn't control himself, he would be worse than a beast. Lu Qing found a corner of the flower bed and sat down. Holding the phone, he thought about whether he should apologize to Yenjika or not. No, apologizing after kissing her is not a man's responsibility. It will make the girl think that I just want to take advantage of her. I need to show a responsible attitude and treat her better. Although there were a lot of comments on the internet such as women can't marry, men can't marry, and sex is normal, Lu Qing felt that he might be a conservative person who hadn't experienced too many setbacks in society. After holding her hand and kissing her lips, he would think of words like forever, and so on. While he was thinking, his QQ beeped. Yenjika replied to him with a happy emoji and said, "I don't talk to you, big pervert." Seeing such a reply, Lu Qing was not surprised but happy. He felt that the girl was more angry than angry. He was relieved and replied with a pitiful expression, "I couldn't control myself at the moment." At the moment? Yenjika sent an emoji of rolling its eyes at the sky. I thought about it carefully. I think you have a premeditated plan. Tell me the truth. Did you have bad intentions when you asked me to take a walk by the lake? How could she see through this? Lu Qing blushed and felt very guilty. He was glad that the girl wasn't with him through the phone. He thought for a while and decided to be honest. He told the girl his thoughts and did not try to hide anything. "Yes. Not only did I want to kiss you when we went to the lakeside, but I also wanted to kiss you in the movie theater. But I saw that you were too focused on the movie, so I didn't have the heart to disturb you. I couldn't find a chance. Maybe guys are more impulsive and impatient, so they always want to get closer to you. Also, when you accepted my confession, didn't you say that you still needed time to get used to it? That you weren't ready to have another person in your life, and that you weren't at the stage where you especially liked me?" "I'm not trying to pressure you. I'm just afraid that you'll leave me one day and tell me that I should return to my original position. That's why I'm always eager for more certainty and confirmation." He carefully typed the paragraph and changed a few of the words in order to more accurately describe his feelings. He still remembered Xiaoming's words. In the world of love, it was better to be honest than to hide, and it was better to communicate than to sulk. After sending the message, Yenjika remained silent for a while before replying with 2 words. "Idiot, idiot?" Lu Qing was a little confused by her words, but he soon realized what she was implying. "Idiot? If I wasn't used to it and wasn't prepared, would I let you kiss me without resistance? Idiot. Do I have to say that I really like you for you to understand? Idiot. Don't let your imagination run wild by yourself." Lu Qing was surprised and happy at the same time. He felt that he had touched the girl's heart. He hurriedly replied, "Yes, I'm an idiot, a big idiot. I can clearly feel the changes between us, but I'm still worried and can't believe it." It's good that you understand." Yenjika sent an emoji of hitting the head and said, "I'll forgive you this time, big pervert. Don't kiss me casually in the future." I can't kiss you casually?" Lu Qing snickered and regained his composure. He quickly typed, "Yes, yes, yes. I won't do it casually." After chatting for a while and confirming the time and place for tomorrow's meal, Yenjika hurriedly urged Lu Qing to wash up when she saw that it was almost 10:30. She didn't want to delay his sleep and affect tomorrow's training. Lu Qing returned to the dormitory while humming a little song. Kai Zongming jokingly scolded Lu Qing, flushed with success and looking lascivious. When he was ready, he got into bed and picked up his phone to say goodnight to Yenjika. He saw that the girl had sent him 3 voice messages a few minutes ago. Lu Qing opened them in confusion and put the phone to his ear, switching it to the receiver mode. "Fu Qing, be my trash can. Just listen and don't answer." Yenjika's soft and clear voice came from the phone. The environment around her seemed to be empty and quiet, mixed with the sound of the wind. "She's on the balcony?" Lu Qing made a positive judgment and continued to listen. "I'm scared. When I give up resistance and choose to accept completely, I'm full of uneasiness about the future. Qing, can we go all the way to the end? Can we hold each other's hands and go through the trials and tribulations one after another, until our hair turns white and we can't speak clearly, and still cuddle together? I'm scared. I'm scared that I'll be defeated by reality in the end when I put my heart and all my feelings into it. I can only watch you go away in pain and melancholy." "If that happens, I feel that my heart will be very painful, so painful that it will be like dying. They say that first love can't go all the way to the end. I'm so worried. I'm worried that one day the person who will marry me won't be you. What a nightmare that will be. Okay, I'm done with the negative feelings. I've never thought about things like this before. It's all your fault." Lu Qing listened quietly. He felt that all the voices in the dormitory had faded away. His heart was clear and his eyes were slightly red. He took a breath and didn't listen to Yenjika's words. He made his own answer. I'm scared too. I'm also scared of such a future. But if we don't even have the courage to try, then we're doomed to miss it. Only by trying and working hard can we have hope. I'm working hard to practice martial arts and strengthen myself. I want to be able to grasp my destiny and grasp that opportunity and that hope. Although it's funny to say this at my age, I still have to say this. I have confidence in myself and in my love. I'm destined to be you in this life. After a while, Yenjika sent a scolding emoji. I told you not to reply. Go to sleep, you big pervert. Lu Qing smiled and immediately said, Good night. Good night, see you tomorrow? Yenjika seemed to have forgotten the confession and answered just now. See you tomorrow? After sending this message, Lu Qing patiently waited for the girl's reply. He had a hunch that the girl would have other replies. After a full 10 minutes, he finally saw Yenjika's new message. Well, I'll work hard too. After reading the message seriously for a few minutes, Lu Qing's lips curled into a smile as he fell asleep. The next day he followed the routine of morning exercise, special training, shower, change, and then ran to the door of the female locker room and waited for Yenjika to come out. The weather was unusually cold. Yenjika was dressed like a cute bear. When she saw Lu Qing, she snorted and turned her head to the side. She hummed and said, Pervert. Big pervert. Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh. He reached out his left hand and held her delicate palm. Yes, 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 I'm your exclusive pervert. What are you talking about? Yenjika didn't expect Lu Qing to be so thick-skinned. She was speechless for a moment and quickly changed the topic. Let me tell you about the other two roommates. One is called Li Liantong, we all call her Dirty Tong. While talking and laughing, the two left the martial arts arena and walked to the teaching building. They planned to go through there, get on the long bridge and return to the pedestrian street in the dormitory area. They would then go to the academy restaurant to meet Zhong Yenru and the others. As they walked, Lu Qing and Yenjika found a group of people in front of them. They were all looking up at the roof, so they followed them out of curiosity. They were surprised to see a boy they didn't know standing outside the window of the 7th floor, looking down. Jumping off the building. Yenjika held Lu Qing's hand tightly and said in a trembling voice. This was the first time she encountered such a thing. Before Songqing University moved to the new campus, 1 or 2 students jumped off the building every year. After moving here, nothing happened for more than half a year. It was said that the principal once said that the feng shui here was good. He didn't expect that someone would make the first jump today. Lu Qing thought quickly. He took a breath and said to Yenjika, You stay away. I'll go and take a look. Okay, be careful. Yenjika understood Lu Qing's idea and reminded him. When Lu Qing approached, he saw the boy's pale face smile and jumped down decisively. Damn. Lu Qing cursed in his heart. He put strength in his legs and jumped forward to the position he judged. Ignoring the injury on his right arm, he stretched out his hands in the midst of the exclamations. Bang. Under Yenjika's worried gaze, Lu Qing caught the boy who was about to jump off the building. As soon as he touched the boy, his feet suddenly pressed inward, causing cracks to appear on the concrete floor. The violent force bounced back. He straightened his back, lowered his arms, pulled them back and then shook them out. The boy who fell straight down was thrown to a place not far away. His face was full of fear and confusion, as if he had finally woken up from a nightmare. Lu Qing exhaled. He felt that his sneakers were about to be destroyed, and the injury on his right arm was a little more serious. But no matter what, these were not as important as a human life. Seeing the teachers and security guards surrounding them and the onlookers staring at him and the boy who was about to jump off the building, Lu Qing said loudly, I'm not even afraid of death. What's there to be afraid of? After saying that, he turned around and left. He met Yenjika outside the 2 schools, hiding his achievements and fame. Chapter 146. Are you okay? Yenjika asked with concern as soon as they met. Lu Qing moved his right arm and smiled bitterly. I'm fine, but this part seems to be more serious. Yenjika was both amused and annoyed. You treat it too badly. You keep hurting it. Apologize to it. Seeing that the boy who jumped off the building was successfully saved, her mood was not affected. I'm sorry. I'll take good care of it later. Lu Qing readily accepted her advice and apologized to his right arm. But in fact, he was assuring Yan Zhika that he would not force himself to be brave and hurt himself again. Of course, if he really encountered a life-threatening situation, he would still help as long as it was within his power. Remember what you said. Yan Zhika looked back at the scene of the jump and sighed. In fact, there is something wrong with what you said. Some people commit suicide not because they are afraid of death, but because they don't feel any happiness in life. They feel that life is completely dark. For them, no matter how much you remind them, they feel that they deserve to die. Forget it, we don't know why that person did it. You did your best out of kindness. That's great. You don't need to think about other things. Lu Qing was confused and didn't know what to say. Yan Zhika smiled gently and gracefully. Because of my cousin's mild autism, I often read about psychology and occasionally talk with their professional teachers. I know that some psychological diseases are not only caused by the mind but also related to the physiological basis. It can't be cured by just talking about it. It must be treated with the corresponding medicine. I think I understand what you mean. Lu Qing nodded thoughtfully. Let's not talk about him. Anyway, we don't know each other. It's better to save a life than to build a 7th-floor pagoda. We don't care about what will happen to him in the future. Yan Zhika's attitude now was exactly the same as when she persuaded Wang Su. Lu Qing couldn't help thinking that although he had experienced a lot and was rapidly maturing, in fact, Yan Zhika might be more mature than him in terms of dealing with people. She seemed to have a complete and formed 3 views. Yes, let's not talk about him. Let's go eat. Your roommate is still waiting. Don't be late. Lu Qing stopped sighing and said. Yan Zhika's almond-shaped eyes widened. What? Let's go to the hospital first. Isn't the injury on your arm more serious? It's just a little bit. It's not too late to go after dinner. Lu Qing gestured with his right arm. It's your first time treating your roommates to a meal. You can't just stand them up, right? What if they badmouth me in the future? Humph, if you perform well, it's useless for them to say bad things about you. If you perform poorly, it's useless for them to say good things about you. Shouldn't you focus on pleasing me and listening to me? Yan Zhika pursed her lips and raised her head. You're right. Lu Qing agreed. However, Yan Zhika was also a good girl who cared about her reputation. She felt embarrassed to stand her roommate up, so she looked at Lu Qing suspiciously and asked, Are you sure it's only a little bit? I'm sure. I'm a master of meditation and I can use inner vision. Lu Qing said proudly. With his control over the muscles in his body, he had a rough idea of the extent of such injuries. Yan Zhika snorted and said, I'll accompany you to the hospital after dinner. Yes, I'll listen to you, Coach Yan. Lu Qing answered with a smile. His heart was filled with the joy of saving a life. Because they couldn't go out of school except for weekends and holidays, the business of the Academy restaurant, as the second-to-none Chinese restaurant in the new campus, was quite good. Lu Qing couldn't even book a table in advance. It was all thanks to Zhong Yanru, who didn't have class in the morning and came early to get a small private room, that they didn't have to wait for a number. Lu Qing and Yan Zhika arrived 2 minutes earlier than agreed. The 3 girls had already gathered and waited for a while. You've seen Zhong Yanru before, so there's no need to introduce her. Yan Zhika pointed at the petite and quiet girl and said, She's Li Liantong. Don't be fooled by her obedient appearance. Lu Qing didn't expect the dirty Tong Yan Zhika was talking about to be such a dignified and quiet girl. He was slightly surprised and smiled. Hello, I'm Lu Qing's boyfriend. You don't have to tell us, we all know. Li Liantong joked. Yan Zhika ignored her and turned to introduce her last roommate to Lu Qing. Shi Xiangyang, surgical killer. Lu Qing saw that the so-called surgical killer was tall, almost as tall as him. Her skin was a healthy wheat color and her eyes were a little blurred because she couldn't focus. He had deep doubts about the girl's ability to come up with nicknames in the dormitory, but on the surface he smiled and said, Hello, I heard that you all know me? He was using Li Liantong's joking to make fun of himself. Yan Zhika, Li Liantong and Zhong Yanru couldn't help but laugh. Shi Xiangyang obviously didn't get the point and answered blankly, Yes, yes. I'm sitting next to Lu Qing. He hurt his right arm in the challenge tournament, so he's disabled for the time being. He needs my help to make a living. Yan Zhika pulled Lu Qing to sit down naturally and gracefully. Then she put some food in his bowl. Challenge tournament? Li Liantong asked curiously, Are you the main force of the martial arts club? Yes. Lu Qing admitted frankly. Li Liantong didn't ask further because in her impression, the martial arts club in her school was very weak, and only Lin K was strong. Moreover, the martial arts club made a big fuss last semester, but they were eliminated in the group stage. It could be seen that the other members were really weak and the so-called main force was just SOSO. Shi Xiangyang was also not interested in this topic. She first helped Yanjika to order the dishes and then asked with a smile, "Lu Qing, I heard from Ku that you were high school classmates?" "Yes, classmates from the next class." Lu Qing answered honestly without any uneasiness. Only when he cared about the girl he loved would he turn into a fool. Zhong Yanru followed up and asked, "Ku should be a famous person in your school, right?" "Of course I don't know." Lu Qing wanted to describe how many boys deliberately passed by Yanjika's class, but the girls secretly pinched him, so he could only stop abruptly. "Did you have a little crush on her at that time?" Li Liantong gossiped about the details with bright eyes. Lu Qing said with a smile, "More than a little." His answer immediately attracted Yanjika's eyes, but the three girls became more excited. Shi Xiangyang said with a smile, "So you had a little crush on our Ku for a long time. Then you joined the martial arts club because of her? You wanted to get close to her?" "Wanted is not quite accurate. I should say, deliberately." Lu Qing smiled and made fun of himself again. "Oh." The three girls made meaningful sounds which made Yanjika roll her eyes at Lu Qing again. But when she wanted to pinch his hand, he turned over and held it in his palm, gently rubbing it. "Not bad." Li Liantong praised Lu Qing's cooperation and asked, "Then you got Ku's contact and started to pursue her?" "At that time, I didn't dare to reveal my intention to pursue her, so I could only chat with her as an old classmate." Lu Qing chuckled. Zhong Yanru suddenly understood. "I was wondering why Ku always took out her phone to chat." Before she could finish, Yanjika reached out and covered her mouth. The two of them laughed and joked. The dishes were served one after another. They began to chat while eating. As for the gossip, Lu Qing would say what he could, but he would never say what he couldn't. With the help of others' curiosity, he and Yanjika reminisced about the details of the past. The more they ate, the more heartwarming and tasty the meal became. At the end of the meal, the three girls finally stopped and picked up their phones to reply to the messages. "Hey, someone jumped off a building just now. The first jump in the new campus." Li Liantong suddenly exclaimed. What? What?" Zhong Yanru and Shi Xiangyang asked in surprise. Li Liantong said, "Cabbage, look at the class group. Ruru, you should be able to see it when you browse the school forum." Because Shi Xiangyang always liked to say that girls were fragrant, soft, and fair, and was also a little white mouse and little white rabbit killer, she was usually very muddle-headed, so Li Liantong gave her another nickname, Cabbage. "We happened to meet on the way here." Yanjika asked curiously, "Did they say why they jumped off the building? Why didn't you say so earlier?" Li Liantong stared at the screen and said, "They're from the management school." According to his roommate, he was from an ordinary family but was greedy for money. He borrowed a small amount of money and the interest was getting higher and higher. Because he was forced to repay the debt, he cheated a lot of his classmates. In the end, he couldn't pay the debt and wanted to commit suicide by jumping off the building. This kind of person is a scourge in the world. Lu Qing and Yanjika looked at each other. They didn't expect such a situation. At least you helped those classmates find someone to repay their debt. His parents also didn't have to bear the pain of losing their son while facing a huge debt. Yanjika leaned towards Lu Qing's ear and comforted him. She didn't want him to feel unhappy about saving such a person. Lu Qing exhaled and said, "Just treat it as helping his parents? Hey, he was saved by someone? That's good. Every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor." Li Liantong, Zhong Yanru, and Shi Xiangyang started to discuss this matter. After a rather enjoyable lunch, Yanjika escorted Lu Qing to the school hospital. "Actually, you don't have to go. The first class in the afternoon is about to start. Maybe I'll be sent to the city to take an X-ray later," Lu Qing said to the girl who felt sorry for him. Yanjika snorted and said, "How can there be a lack of truancy in university? I didn't expect that the first truancy in my life would be like this." At this moment, Lu Qing's phone rang. He took it out and saw that it was from his teacher. Teacher sure?" He vaguely guessed why it was from him. "Not bad. Now you know how to save people." Geezer sure joked. "How's your hand? Is it okay?" At that time, with that kind of skill, he could guess that it was Lu Qing who saved him. Lin K had to rest and didn't come to the martial arts club these 2 days. "It's a little serious." Lu Qing answered honestly. "Come to my place. I'll do acupuncture and give you some ointment." The doctors in your school hospital can only treat colds and colds. Geezer sure said sarcastically. Okay, where do you live? Lu Qing didn't want to go to the city hospital to take an x-ray. After taking down Geezer Shi's address, he quickly told Yen Zhika about it. Then I'll go back to class. Yen Zhika was relieved and said with a smile. Bye-bye. I'll wait for you at the usual place tonight. Lu Qing smiled and waved his hand. The usual place was Chankieku. They were going to have dinner together. Yen Zhika turned around and walked 2 steps. She suddenly turned back and said with a smile, Qing, when you saved people just now, well, you were so cool. After saying that, she quickly turned her head and left with light footsteps. So cool. Lu Qing touched his chin proudly and watched the girl go away. On the way back to their dormitory, Shi Xiangyang asked Li Liantong, Dirty Tong, what do you think of Lu Qing? Is he good enough for Ko? Li Liantong thought for a while and said, he's quite generous and witty. He looks more mature than the boys in the same grade. It's not bad that you Ru and I can find a boyfriend like him. But I still think he's not good enough for Ko. I think he's okay. Zhong Yinru had a good impression of Lu Qing. Li Liantong shook her head and said, he's not handsome enough. He can't make a living with his looks. I've also observed his clothes and shoes. They're just ordinary brands. They can't be considered good. In other words, his family background can only be considered average. I heard that his grades are only average. I don't think he's not good enough. I just think a girl like Ku deserves someone much better than him. I think so too. But it's really hard to calculate the relationship. Shi Xiangyang sighed. After returning to the dormitory, Zhong Yinru took her and Yen Zhika's textbooks and hurried to the teaching building. Li Liantong turned on her computer and browsed the school forum with great interest to see if there was any news about the suicide incident. Shi Xiangyang went to bed and planned to take a nap to prepare for the second class in the afternoon. After browsing for a while, Li Liantong's eyes suddenly lit up when she saw a post. Live video. It's great to have strong martial arts. It's a video of a rescue? Li Liantong clicked on it immediately. She saw a figure pouncing out when the boy was falling from the high ground. He was as agile as a fierce tiger. In an instant he arrived nearby and reached out to catch the jumper. At this moment, as the figure moved his feet, cracks suddenly appeared on the concrete floor. Then, without knowing how he used his strength, he actually turned the fall into a horizontal throw, allowing the jumper to land safely on the ground. This caused Li Liantong to open her eyes wide. She felt a deep shock as she experienced the beauty of the tyrannical strength of the body. It wasn't that she had never seen a fight between mighty ones with physical invulnerability. But flames and lightning were too far away from real life. Breaking stones and so on also lacked the visual impact. Relatively speaking, it didn't make her feel that much. But just now, it was a real person jumping off a building. This was something that could often be heard and seen in real life. Seeing a boy catch the jumper safely as an ordinary person, she was simply shocked. She couldn't help but admire the strong. So awesome, so manly. Which school is he from? Li Liantong moved the mouse and rewatched the video with great interest. She was suddenly stunned because of the familiar clothes and shoes. It's him? Li Liantong stared at the video blankly until it ended for a long time. When Lu Qing arrived at the teacher's apartment where Geezer Shi lived, he saw a mess of cups and plates and garbage everywhere, which perfectly fit the image of a lonely and lazy old man. After expressing his concern about his master's living situation, he was about to speak when he heard Geezer Shi say with a dry laugh, "A few old friends came and I didn't have time to clean up." Old friends? Lu Qing asked casually. Yes, old friends that I haven't seen for more than 10 years. Hey, in order to break through to the forbidden area, he actually thought of searching for the relics left by ancient cultivators. He wanted to be inclusive and learn by analogy. Geezer Shi laughed. He said that there might be a Longhu Immortal's relic nearby. Lu Qing was stunned and almost couldn't control his heartbeat. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.